Live from Mortgage One Studios, Russ Clark's back with you. It's Friday. Happy Friday. I didn't, I think the temperature's supposed to be cooler today. Let me check that real quick. 75 degrees out right now. It felt great outside, like it was not as humid. Uh, High today is going to be only 106. It's good. But I understand it's supposed to feel cooler tomorrow. Father's Day is tomorrow. Don't forget Father's Day. 105 and 73 tomorrow, and then it's going to go back up to 111 next Wednesday, and then 115. Yeah, we got all that to look forward to. Summer's upon us. At least summer weather is upon us. The phone lines are open 928-941-0304. I'm gonna try to keep an eye on that. I moved the studio at Mortgage One. In fact, Derek has just done a great job in here. He set up a lot of equipment because he set it up for podcasting with cameras and all that, and he's not done. There's a lot more work he wants to do, particularly once it becomes back on air. Assuming that's all going to go forward as planned, and it's looking good. It's all back on air, but he has more rooms, more things he wants to do. In fact, we were in the conference room yesterday, and Mortgage One has this huge conference room. It's got to seat 25 people or better. At the head table, maybe 15 at the table. I didn't count them. I'm just recalling from memory. But then there's chairs all along the wall, all the way around, very comfortable chairs. And he mentioned something about doing the show in there, and then we can invite people in if you want to come in. You can just sit in the studio. I don't care. Everybody come in that wants to. So yeah, make that trip. We'll make coffee even. That's not available yet, but eventually, because it doesn't bother me, people coming and going. In fact, I told you when the station comes back online, assuming it's all in good order, and I think it is, I want to do a lot more remotes. I want to get out into restaurants and do remotes at restaurants, remotes at RV parks, whatever. Anybody would have me get out and do remotes at other locations. And we've done that in years past, many times. The station stopped doing all that stuff, and it became complex and not advisable. Didn't want to do it. As you know, I do CPAC. I used to do CPAC every year. I go back to Washington, D.C. for 3 days and broadcast from Washington, D.C. So I don't mind getting out of the studio and doing that. So if any of you have any ideas or restaurant owners or somebody, with a breakfast place or something that just would like to have, I don't care, your living room, I don't care. We'll come out and do a broadcast remotely. We'll come out remotely and be able to do that. Disclaimer, all content presented on the Russ Clark Show, including statements made by guests, commentators, and callers, reflect the personal opinions of those individuals and is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. These views do not represent the official positions of Mortgage One Studios, its owners, employees, affiliates, or partners. Mortgage One Studios does not endorse, verify, or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statements made by third parties during programming. So I'm sitting in a comfortable chair today because I sit here for 3 hours, and Derek has this big round table, right, set on top of a barrel table with the high chairs, which are not terrible until after the first hour or two, and then they get a little terrible. But I'm not complaining. I just thought I'd move over to here since I don't have any guests today. I don't have any guests, and I figured I'd give it a try and check out the other side of the room because cameras are set up virtually for anywhere I want to sit in this room. I could move a camera, or it's already mounted on the walls. I think there's 6 cameras in this room that I have access to, and I probably more somewhere else. Anyway, in local news, Welton. There was a crash yesterday, which is kind of surprising. Happened at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, just before 2:30. It was out in the Welton area. It was 3 miles south of East County 14th Street on El Camino Diablo. Yeah. The Yuma County Sheriff's Office arrived and said a motor grader was driving northbound. And you know what a motor grader? Motor grader is a huge piece of equipment. I mean, it's wide, tall, and long. So it's a monster. It smooths out those roads, dirt roads. gravel roads, all those. It just goes out and keeps them graded. The operator moved to the right of the gravel roadway to allow approaching northbound traffic to pass. However, after one vehicle safely passed, an F-150 crashed into the rear of the motor grader. Broad daylight. Doesn't say that it appeared to have any alcohol or anything involved in the crash. There was a passenger in the truck. Let me see. Responding was, of course, Yuma County Sheriff, Rural Metro, Welton Fire Department, Tri Valley Ambulance, and then Care Flight, because the driver was airlifted out. So, yeah, you hit a road grader. The road grader's not going to move much. That thing outguns you. You're not going to do well. Well, see, it was the passenger that was airlifted. I'm sorry, it was the passenger of the Ford. Airlifted to Phoenix Area Hospital, critical condition. The operator of the motor grader, driver, and third passenger, so there's 3 in there, of the Ford were taken to Vita Health for non-life-threatening injuries. So if you know anything about it, give Yuma County Sheriff's Office a call. They'd like to know, or if you want to remain, and you can do that anonymous. Call 78 Crime and remain anonymous. And even when there's a reward sometimes for information, what they do is they give you a number, rather than ask you your name, they give you a number. And if there is a reward, they will have you pick that up at some location at a bank or something. Just go in and give them the number. I mean, I guess they could find out who they were if they really wanted to. They don't. Also in Yuma yesterday. Oh, no, this was last Friday. The story just came out, though. Last Friday, around 1:40 in the afternoon, there was a search warrant in the home of South Helen Drive and 37th Place at 1:40 in the afternoon. And they found 83 grams of methamphetamine worth $1,658.60. And various items of paraphernalia indicative of street sales. It's a dangerous occupation. I don't know how they get away with it as they do. I mean, because when you're in sales of any kind, even if it's illegal drugs, you've got to make yourself known. Otherwise, you can't sell anything. Well, the more you make yourself known, the more opportunity there is to get found out, which is that's not a good end to your career. Well, a 52-year-old man, that's all they know. They don't give the name. He ran from the scene. But like Sheriff Wilmot has told me many times, don't run because you're just going to go to jail tired. Well, this guy went tired. The U.S. Marshals working with YCSO, they arrested him Wednesday in the area of 32nd Street near Circle K. So I guess running was successful for a few days. He was charged with possession of dangerous drugs for sale, possession of dangerous drugs, and numerous counts of possession of drug paraphernalia. Again, if you have any information regarding the case or you wondered where your meth supplier went, you can call Yuma County Sheriff's Office and say, I miss a meth supplier. Used to be out on Helen Drive in 37th Place. Is he okay? They'll keep you informed. You can call YACSO at 920-783-4427. Or again, 78 Crime. Keep that anonymous if you want to. You see, I want to talk about the if I can find it here. Barack Obama opened up his library, and that thing has been getting a lot of attention, mostly negative, and maybe I listened to the wrong shows. Mostly negative. And it's been panned as far as, appearance and how he's done it, the amount of time it's taken, the money he spent's double. Unlike Trump, which generally comes in, quickly under budget. Although the ballroom seems to be going over budget. I think they keep changing it, the ballroom. I mean, change its capability and stuff. I mean, building a ballroom, but they're also building a bunker that's 6 stories tall and defensive systems. So I don't know if the ballroom price goes up, just all the things necessary to put in all that other military stuff, which makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It makes sense to do it while they got the ground dug up and all that. I don't know if those were afterthoughts, uh, like after he decided to build the thing that the DOD came in. There's no explanation on where that all came from. Uh, Let me talk to Gilbert. Good morning, Gilbert. Gilbert. Uh-oh. Hold on. Well, I show everything's working, Gilbert. Hopefully it's on your end. Well, when I talk on the phone, it's showing up. Let me see. Gilbert, you're gonna have to call back, my friend. I'm gonna restart my phone. That's happened to me once before. That it somehow it worked. I played music first thing right on the phone. It worked, and then when I did the phone call through the same line, same everything, it didn't work. It could have been on Gilbert's end, but I'm gonna restart it just in case. So I'll be off for a minute. On the Obama Center, they finally did the ceremony, and if you notice something that's missing in there, Donald Trump was missing, and it's the first time they've ever opened up a presidential library, and the sitting president didn't attend. President Obama asked Trump not to attend. That's the report I read, that he literally didn't not just give him an invitation, but let him know he wouldn't be welcome. And then, took a few, indirect jabs at him during some of his speeches and stuff. He really doesn't like that, President Trump is screwing up his whole progressive communist takeover of the country, and Trump doesn't seem to be cooperating. All right, let me see. Phone is starting. But the entire, depending on what you read, the project ended up costing close to $1 billion. I've read anywhere from 800,000 or 800 million to $1 billion, which started off with about a $300 million estimate, which didn't work out. Let me try calling Gilbert back, see if that works. That's well, I don't think my phone wants to call. There we go. Well, I'm definitely not hearing anything through the phone. No ringing or anything. I'm gonna take a break. Looks like Gilbert hung up on me. Let me take a break, and I'll figure out this phone, and I'll be right back. This Russ. Again, not working. All right. All right. Thank you, but I'll got it figured out. Carl, good morning.
Good morning. You were coming in now, sliding clear underneath my mesquite tree this morning.
Well, I figured out what it was.
Okay.
I had dropped my equipment, and it touched a button that muted the phone.
All right.
But I got it back. But thank you for calling, my friend.
All right. Have a good day, my friend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Carl helping me decide what I did wrong. So now I know what to look for. I did because I rearranged the office after I tested everything. It was all working. I knocked it off the table, and it bumped a button that said that's a mute button. So there you go. Just got to keep doing it and figure it all out. Let me try to call Gilbert back now and see if I can get him on the phone. See where that owl is. Yeah, I can hear it now. Well, he's probably back out in the yard working now. Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah, I got you on the phone now.
Yeah, my fault. Operator error. What's happening?
Oh, I know. Oh, nothing. I was laughing at all these racist black people that are so against Trump and how Trump has done black people wrong and how he's such a racist and that he's this and that.
Right.
And Obama has not paid any of his black contractors, and he got all black contractors.
Well, mostly anyway. Yeah, that was his whole goal. I mean, I don't know if they accomplished it 100%, but he certainly was looking for the DEI contractors, and he's destroyed a lot of them.
I think 3 of them gone bankrupt. 2 of them are waiting to go bankrupt, and everybody that was in there, they said they could go through the whole library within an hour.
Oh, really?
But he does have a basketball court. He has a basketball court in there.
But it is a big building, though.
It's tall.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it gets panned a lot about its looks. It's like a garbage can, and all kinds of stuff. It's unsightly. I don't know where he was going with that architecture other than like a prison look or something.
Now, I got to ask you a question, Russ.
What's up?
Glancing at it, could you read anything that was on that wall, on the building?
I noticed there was something on the wall. There was a message on the wall. I forget which. It was one of his speeches or something.
Right. It was. But could you read it?
Oh, no. It's way up in the air.
Well, yeah, but they panned in it. They panned on it.
Yeah.
Right? They panned on the message. And it's like me writing you a letter.
Yeah.
Chicken scratch. That's what it looked like to me.
It didn't. You're right. I mean, now you mention it. I looked at it, but I didn't make heads or tails out of what it was saying.
Exactly. And his interview with I forgot what her name was, with Michelle. All they did was put each other down.
Wow, she really, they did an interview, and one of the interviews, they would say, well, what does next year look like? Or what does the future look like? And Michelle said, it's about me.
It's about me.
Yeah. Oh, and
so what does it tell you?
and Obama stayed, Barack stayed calm about it, but he just didn't change his expression at all. And I'm looking at that chicken scratch now. I mean, I can read it, but it's all like I-beams welded together. It's not pleasant to read. It's kind of like
you're right. When a man writes a speech and he puts it the way he did on that building, what does it say about him?
Well, there's speeches like in the Washington Memorial. I mean, the Lincoln Memorial and stuff. It's a big Gettysburg Address. Of course, he was dead. He didn't put it up, but I don't know.
But you could read it. At least you can read it.
Yeah, and I guess it goes around the corner. It doesn't make any sense if you look at one side. You got to move around the corner,
right?
Because it says, "You are America," and then the next line says "ED." By horror. I don't know. And
you're having a hard time reading it.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
I try to read it numerous times, and I go, well, maybe it's my education, but I cannot decipher what he's trying to
Well,
say.
it looks like it wraps around the corner, so you're gonna have to walk around the building to read it if you
Yep.
can. Wow, that's pretty terrible.
Yep. And a lot of people that went in there said within an hour you can see the whole thing,
The
and
thing
there's nothing.
the thing looked like all concrete for a while, but now it looks like it's covered with a concrete colored, uh, you know, stone or something. Still looks concrete, but
Yeah.
it's not concrete anymore. It's got stone on it. But
Yeah.
the stone even looks like concrete. I didn't know that they covered
Yep.
it with stone until just now looking at it more closely.
Right.
I thought they left it with as concrete.
So did you hear anything about the debate they had the other night with Biggs and
No,
his opponent?
I did not watch it yet. I haven't. How'd it go?
I didn't watch it myself. I was hoping someone will call you and let you know what their feelings were.
Yeah, that's bad of me. I should have. I went out last night actually to watch a soccer match.
Good.
Yeah,
We-
not my
we-
normal
we get
thing.
hung up.
I'll talk
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I wanted to call you. My 2 cents on that building, and the fact that everybody puts down Trump being a racist and always screwing over black people, and first so-called black American president, and what he's done, and they're still praising him.
Of course they are. I mean, he's a favorite president amongst many Democrats. They thought he was wonderful and all that. They don't look at policy. They just look at charm or something. I don't know. Maybe he has a Nazi tattoo, so they like that. I don't know.
When I first heard him speak many, many, many years ago, I said, wow, that guy speaks really good. He was a hell of a speaker
Yeah.
when he was a senator. He was.
Uh-huh.
And that's what attracted me to him. I'm going, well, this guy's pretty well educated. But then again, he was a hustler.
Well, they're doing very well making money. They got that, the money for television stuff, 60 million at one time. And or no, that was a book deal or something. And Michelle has had 2 book deals. She's getting another one. And I don't think they sell, but she gets them. And
Yeah, she gets money.
she's not happily married woman. Maybe she is a woman. And some fighters would disagree, but she
Well,
complains a lot about being married to Barack Obama.
Yep. I wonder because there's a hidden factor with Mr. Obama himself.
I don't know what it is.
I don't either,
But
nor will I say it.
maybe
but,
she should write a book explaining it, and that one would be more successful.
Well, you heard Dana White fired that gentleman that called Michelle a man.
It was uncalled for. It was the wrong opportunity, wrong time. He embarrassed Trump. Trump took off that medal he was given. That guy could have put a medal around his neck. And apparently that fighter's noted for being obnoxious comments and stuff.
And the thing is, there's a place and there's a time.
Correct.
There is. I mean, Muhammad Ali, he brought boxing to where it's at today because of his brashness and his verbiage.
Yeah,
My
but
dad hated.
he wasn't really attacking people like.
Oh no, he attacked his. No, I'm talking about his salesmanship.
Yeah,
he sold tickets.
Yeah,
He sold, and that's what that guy thinks he's doing.
I mean,
there's a lot of difference.
Yeah. Oh no, Muhammad Ali was a lot of fun. But he'd make predictions. I'm gonna take him out in the first round or something, and that kind of stuff. That was about as hateful he really got. But
no, he really put down Joe Frazier.
He didn't
really
like him.
put down Joe. Well, they were best of friends in the end.
Yeah.
But it was all about selling tickets, and he said that. He said that. Look what he did to Howard Cosell. I mean, he pulled Howard Cosell's wig off in public.
But he was a favorite of Howard Cosell, though, man. He made Howard Cosell.
Oh yeah. He like I said, he sold tickets.
My
dad hated him. My dad hated him so much. I want to see him get beat. He's not Joe Louis. And
my grandfather was the same way. Just couldn't stand the man. And
now My first fight that I remember, Russ,
Yeah.
was Billy Kid Perrette getting killed by Emil Griffith, I believe, in the ring. I mean, he died after the ring, but that's the first fight I remember seeing. And it was Friday night, Gillette, Razor Blades, boxing, Friday night fights. That's the first fight I remember seeing as a kid.
So you never went ringside to go see Muhammad Ali?
Oh, who could afford it?
Nobody could.
But I loved that.
I don't know what it costs in Vegas right now to go ringside, but it's in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yet at the White House, it was free. I mean, you had to get a ticket, but everything was free. They didn't charge anybody to go.
Yep.
That was
And he had more
amazing.
But I still love the fact that they had that little thing with Robert De Niro and them, and they had what 200 people maybe.
It looked like that. It was a small theater, but they just were hating on everything.
They were hating on everything, and
it was not a diverse crowd.
No. Old people, they said, there's a bunch of old people.
But yeah, it was old white guys in there mostly.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm out of here, Russ. You have a good one. I'm going to do some more work today. Later.
You take care. Bye-bye. And that, of course, was Gilbert that got through after I had my technical difficulty. Yeah, but the Obama opening for the center was really strange if you saw that. It started off with the master of ceremonies, which was Valerie Jarrett that worked for Obama at one time, former advisor. She kicked it off by acknowledging the where the prior inhabitants of the property. She says, we also like to take a moment to recognize original inhabitants of the land upon which we are gathered today. We honored and Shabi, the council, the Three Fires, the Ajbui, the Adawa, and the Potawatomi nations. All the Indian tribes, which I butchered all of their names, but you wouldn't know that because you don't know what they're supposed to be. But she just, it was so odd. But that whole theme of this is all stolen land, and Obama stole it. I guess. I don't know. What is that point? Is that the point? It's stolen land and we're not giving it back. Well, it got panned a lot on that. A lot of commentators didn't stop. I mean, they didn't miss the opportunity to say something about it. Steve Dens, he's a conservative commentator. Wouldn't they prefer to just give them their land back? They made no indication they're going to return anything. But that has been a left-wing thing about living on stolen land, and the people that complain about it and say it's stolen land are generally not the tribes themselves. It's the rich people that are living on it that are left-wing. I guess that absolves them of guilt or something. And if you go back far enough, I don't know who all owns that land over the years. It may have been 100 different tribes, and it may have been 100 different people. Things like that change hands all the time. Beth Ann Mumford of the Americans for Prosperity said, land acknowledgements are funny because the real message is, I want to say I care, but I don't really care, or I wouldn't have built on this land, which I say is yours. Hilarious. Steve Miller. So you just went ahead and built on that land anyway, huh? What a weird way to start that thing off, that dedication. I don't know that Trump has mentioned it. I haven't seen. He wasn't invited. Kamala Harris was there. Bill Clinton was there. Hillary Clinton. She looked horrible. I mean, she never looks good, but she looks more like Paddington Bear. I heard it was described with, real baggy pants, real baggy hat. Just not good. Performers were John Legend, Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, to name a few. There were others. Oprah Winfrey was there, Tom Hanks, David Letterman, all that kind of stuff. The center, when he built it, it was explicitly, he mapped out what his goals were and what he wanted to do. and he was going to uplift minority-owned contractors. That was his goal: uplift minority-owned contractors. He was going to hire them to do a high-profile project like this. And now, according to this article, and many that have complained about it, they've been stiffed and are facing financial ruin. One subcontractor says his firm has owed $4 million for work he completed on the center. And of course, this thing is behind schedule. I don't even think it's finished yet. The project was announced in 2015, and they decided to do it in Jackson Park, which is Chicago's South Side. Not the best neighborhood, actually. Chicago's South Side, when you hear about Chicago, when they talk about the percentage of murders and the amount of murders and all that, Chicago's South Side is the highest one. If you look on a map and look where all the murders are, South Side's one of the worst. But I think Obama's monstrosity may fix that. And here's why. The groundbreaking was delayed until 2021, and it was due to bureaucratic red tape, and it required numerous local, federal approvals to build on that location. I don't know why it was tied up, but maybe it was the property was partially owned by the government of some kind, and it's a historic preservation site, which I guess he got an exemption to build on it. It was a green area. In fact, a lot of the locals have complained that it was a green area that they all could use, and the kids could play on and all that stuff. And now it looks like a big garbage can, and they ruined their view. Of course, progress happens, building happens, and if you don't own the property, you can't decide that what goes on there. So yeah, your view might be ruined someday because you don't own all of it. You see, the controversies one of them was the use of tax dollars to support the surrounding infrastructure, and we heard that with about a lot of major projects, like a mall goes in or something like that. Why did the city have to put in stuff like that? And generally, the city may put some into it up front or give some exemptions up front to help out, but generally it's just putting things off. Eventually they're going to collect the money. I know that's happened in, like, the mall that went in here. People say there was a gift of $8 million, kind of, except that $8 million, they got to earn it back, or they got it back by tax dollars or something. The infrastructure on this thing, I think it was supposed to be up to $20 million, for the roads and all that stuff. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. So far, Illinois has spent over $120 million on infrastructure improvements in South Chicago to accommodate the presidential center, with the total public cost estimated to be around $200 million. So I'm sorry, I was way off. I was off by 10 times. It's $200 million, not $20 million. The critiques of the building's design, a lot of the locals have critiqued it. And if you've seen Trump's design, and it was an initial possibility, I don't think anything's been decided on, but his is a beautiful high-rise building, just gorgeous. The left panned though as being too audacious or something, but it's really the initial artist renditions of the possibilities, and I know nothing's settled yet. Failure to pay contractors is a big one, and Gilbert mentioned that some of those contractors are hurting very badly. They have not collected the money that they needed to. Some of them have been out of business, I guess. There's lawsuits alleging racial discrimination. He opened it up, for blacks only. So, I think that's discriminatory. It's the designer. It was designed as a broader civic campus with a museum, public plaza, forum, Chicago Public Library branch. So they put a public library branch inside the building, recreation space, gardens, and community programming. One Chicago residents that lives nearby and grew up near there says it's a monstrosity. It's over budget. It's taking way too long to finish, and it's going to drive up prices and bring headaches and problems for everyone that lives here. I feel like it's a washing away of the neighborhood and culture that used to be here. The Obama Foundation wanted the center to be a boom for the community, billing it as an economic engine for Southside. The center prioritized local contracting and staff, and of course, minority contractors, while also promising to provide workforce development services for surrounding communities. And it was a racial justice infused center would ultimately displace many from predominantly Black American locals by increasing the value of the lots. So the people that could live there, I guess, got forced out because the prices all went up for rent. Let's take a phone call. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sandy.
Years ago, the rule of thumb was that concrete only lasts 100 years.
Yeah.
So in modern building, do they mix something in it to extend the life, extend its structure?
Not necessarily. They can. They can. I mean, there are ways to build concrete at different densities. There's no question about that. But quite often, like the FBI building, which is all concrete, is completely crumbling and falling apart. That's why they abandon it in downtown DC. But it depends.
Well, then
yeah. Sometimes they mix the
it
concrete.
doesn't sound like it was a wise choice for this building then either, and it doesn't look good at all.
Gosh, it doesn't. But no,
it looks like a trash can, or something like from an alien show or something.
It doesn't.
I don't know.
Good, and that lettering he put on it is even horrible. That steel.
I can't see it good enough. I can't put it on a computer to make the screen bigger. I guess I could have put it on my TV. I didn't think of that. But I'm just not that interested.
I tried to read it.
I know that's terrible.
It's just terrible to read. It's some speech that he had or something, but it just really turned out bad. I mean,
then that building could start crumbling in 100 years or less. Then
we can only hope. I mean, we don't know. I mean, it was built. They had problems with the concrete early on. The contractors that they hired to do the concrete started pouring concrete, and it was cracking and stuff. It was causing problems. That's part of the delay. So obviously, they used something wrong. They did something wrong. And when you build big projects like that, like dams and stuff, where it's tons of concrete, there's so much heat that's put out when concrete cures. They've got to do it in layers and be careful with it. Otherwise, they could develop a lot of heat, and that stuff actually kind of like breaks up. Explodes.
Well, that could then, I didn't think about it. There could be, hopefully there aren't structural issues where people are inside it and something happens.
Oh.
Especially, it sounds like it's built kind of on a swampy type area.
Yeah.
I don't think they get earthquakes up there much. I know they have like high winds and things like that, but
I wouldn't think that's going to be a concern at all. But the concern
well,
is
anyway.
it's ugly. It's ugly.
Anyway, it'd be interesting. Did he talk to President Trump personally to tell him I don't want you there, or did he just send a message?
I have no idea, but I would guess that it was not personal. I would guess, but the audacity.
That would be assuming that President Trump would even want to go. I think he probably would if he was invited. He would go.
Probably out of respect for the office, but I don't
Sure.
I don't think he'd hurt his feelings. He hasn't mentioned it to my knowledge. I haven't heard him complain about it or say anything. He's
that kind
just
of
ignoring
stuff
it.
doesn't hurt his feelings. He's more concerned with trying to keep everything going.
He's probably happy not to go.
Obama and the media are out there trying to say everything Trump's doing is wrong. So.
I think they picked on Joe a little bit too. And if you see some of the group
Joe Biden?
if you see some of the pictures, Joe Biden's kind of standing a distance away. He's not really close to them. He's kind of pushed away a little bit on some of those pictures.
Right. Somebody wrote, "Why isn't Jill taking care of Joe instead of being right beside Obama?" But I didn't watch it all. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I didn't either.
Anyway,
I saw
you have
some
a good
pictures.
day.
Thank you, ma'am. Take care.
Okay, bye.
That was Miss Sandy. who stays informed. I mean, she reads a lot or sees a lot. She sends me a lot of stuff. Uh, this one leaser up there, he says, what we got, was a lease saying you have to pay $2,450 a month to stay in your home. I don't know what it was before, but apparently it's gone up. His rent's gone up after the construction began. My home that we had let fall into disrepair, my home that they had decided wasn't worth caring for, so we had to move. Our beautiful Black Beach neighborhood was no longer ours to enjoy. Chicago set aside $6 million to develop affordable housing in the area and provide residents with property tax relief. And then the local contractors, there's a lawsuit against one of them. One of the firms managing its construction in early 2025, one African-American owned concrete and rebar company working on the project, alleged that the company overseeing structural engineering and design on the Obama Presidential Center unfairly singled out Black owner firms for errors. Well, there were errors and errors in the concrete and the rebar. I don't know. They singled out, but there were cracks and stuff, and it just didn't work out. And created lawsuits directly undermining the lawsuit alleged that those in charge of the presidential library construction directly undermined the Obama Foundation's DEI goals and commitments and mission to bring transformative change to the construction industry and local community. A claim that was strongly denied by management. Now, management and whoever the manager is of the site and all that said that some contractors were questionably qualified. And I guess that's what you get when you hire DEI. Yeah, you say, well, I'm just looking for a Black or a Latino or an Asian or something, a contractor. Instead of like quality, I guess they just get race. They underperform or displayed inexperience. And those factors contributed to the library's ballooning cost. The foundation, the Obama Foundation, emphasized that hiring Black-owned businesses when seeking out some contractors for its centers, obviously problematic and doubled the cost. And yet they pushed that, or they pushed that a lot on private business, that you need to do the same thing, saying, go after anybody but white guys. African-American subcontractors told News, and that's an organization, I haven't had 8 hours, or one of them, I haven't had 8 hours or 6 hours of sleep in over a year. I'm cooked emotionally. I feel like an aluminum can that's been in front of a steamroller. We're crushed, and I have to fight for my company and for my people. The president of the African American Contractors Association, Omar Sharif, this is a bad signal to put out the fact that 7 to 8, maybe 10 of our contractors in our community are going to be eliminated from doing business because of the debt that they incurred on this particular project. If they would have known it was a Trojan horse or a Pandora's box, I don't know if they would have raced as much as they did to be a part of it. So, under all the negative stuff. Now, the speech that's on the side of the building that I couldn't read, it was from January 13th, 26. President Obama's speech marking the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, inscribed on the building side. The building was an ominous presence. It's mostly windowless, half recalling of menacing sci-fi headquarters the Guardian's architecture wrote in the structure. I think it looks sci-fi. Justin Kaufman, a writer for Axios, says, well, today's punchline may become tomorrow's civic treasure. And at the center's blending of modern architecture with the design language of classic civic buildings. I guess he's trying to tell us we're all wrong and we're going to love it in the long run. Classic civic, where's there a classic civic buildings? Are we talking the Parthenon or are we talking the projects? Classic civic buildings. I don't know which civic buildings he's in referencing. Last year I was really intrigued about Caitlin Clark. I wanted to see the games. I wanted to see her play. She's a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal player. And I was always kind of disappointed because when I did tune in, it just seems like the reffing and stuff was just unfair. She'd get beat up, punched, pushed down, no fouls called against her, uh, and um, and Nike wasn't helping her, which so Nike signed her to this multi-million-dollar contract, and then just didn't do a shoe, didn't do anything, and I got discouraged watching the thing. Tell you the truth, I mean, this was a big buzz. I mean, it was just growing because her talents when she's on the field there is just or on the court, it's just amazing, amazing girl, smart. Um, and she's just helping the team. It's not that her individual prowess alone, uh, but she's passing the ball as much as she is trying to do anything else. She's helping the team, and she wants to win, which I think is wonderful. But watching this year, I said I don't want to do much of the same, so I did not rent the opportunity to watch more of it. And she's doing well. She's still breaking records, so she's still doing stuff. But the the unfairness, at least in my mind, some of that's subjective, but some of the calls made by the refs, I mean, are just ridiculous to from my vantage point, and when listen to some of the commentators and stuff that they're just it's not a level playing field. She's still getting beat up. Although I think she's got a team around her that's going to stand up for her now a little bit more. They don't walk away and watch her get beat up. So I don't know. I look at it a little bit, but I'm disappointed in the league, disappointed on how they're handling it. So I don't watch it. But anyway, the she just debuted her sneaker, famously, and I don't know when that started. That they started making sneakers for one person, like a Jordan. Jordan, was the one I remember, Air Jordans and all that. That highlighted him in the sneaker, and it was his signature sneaker, and people just lined up at stores to buy them. Well, not that many people get a sneaker, but she does. She finally did get one, Nike, and she's like the most exciting player in all of the NBA, including men's and women's. She's the most exciting player as far as people, trying to see her, and an increase in sales in the WNBA was just tremendous as far as people wanting to get in. But it's an all blue silhouette sneaker with her signature logo, which is a CC, Caitlin Clark. You can't buy it yet. But I looked online, and no, I'm not going to wear them. But I was thinking, it'd be cool to have my granddaughter a pair. They're $140 a piece. Probably the same technology in the sneaker would be half that if it wasn't a signature sneaker for Caitlin Clark. And probably once you get one, it probably sells more on eBay because there's going to be a huge demand. And that's been the same thing with everything else she's done, like a signature basketball. Wilson's all sold out like in a minute, and stuff that she does just sells like crazy out where the other players don't, and they get jealous. Angel Reese has got a sneaker with Reebok. I have no idea how it's selling. Brianna Stewart with Puma, Sabrina Lescu with Nike, and Aja Wilson with Nike. That's it. That's all the ones in the league that have their own sneakers. Not everybody gets it. Gets their own sneaker. But it's going to be October 1st. I don't know what takes them so long, but October 1st before that first one comes out. They've already got it on their website. You can go look at it. It just looks like a blue sneaker to me. It's nothing special, but I'm sure if my granddaughter had a pair, she'd be the only one in school. I don't know if they know who Caitlin Clark is at that age, though. She's 9. Maybe not. Maybe not. She might. She might know. But my granddaughter's name's Caitlin also. So she could have a Caitlin sneaker. It won't be about her, though. It'll be about a basketball player. The U.S. military, all the news about Iran and stuff, and we'll talk about that, of course. Phone lines are open if you want to change the subject, but 928-941-0304. The U.S. military has not stopped on the narco terrorists, because of the Iran war and all the other pressures that are going on. The narco terrorist thing continues, and we started just shooting boats months and months ago that were carrying narcotics on this known traffic route. When they get the information that it's carrying narcotics, they don't try to pull it over. They don't try to capture it. They just fire. And our military is, pretty good at just accuracy. Knocking them out of water. But on June 18th, there was another one, and it was at the direction of Southcom Commander General Francis Donovan, Joint Task Force of the Southern Spear. A lethal strike on a vessel. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was transitioning along known narco trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco trafficking operations. 3 men described as narco terrorists were killed in the strike. They're not saying exactly where it was or anything, just there was another 3 men. I don't know how they get these people to captain these little boats, but right now there's at least 211 people have been killed in this operation. I don't know how many boats. It's 40, 50 boats, I'm sure. I don't have it in this article, but Southcom last week, had a kinetic strike that killed Hector Russenford Guerrero Flores, known as Nino Guerrero, the leader of the Trindiagra, or at least alleged thereof. Now, the U.S. State Department had previously had a reward out for him of $5 million, but you missed that opportunity. They already took care of it. He's a 42-year-old Venezuelan who's no longer with us. I think they blew up a building that he was in, but the 42 years old, he gets to that position where you're going to have governments after you, labeled as terrorism, and have $5 million rewards for your arrest or conviction. But they do remain active. Don't forget about them as they are doing things over and around. I saw a special yesterday, or a video explaining how the United States fleet's taking care of some of those drones that were coming out of Iran, and how they used the lasers. And the lasers weren't talked about during the initial operation. They didn't really mention the lasers. In fact, I know there was debris taken out of the ocean where these drones were melted, but the United States government never said they were using lasers. I guess they keep that a secret, but they have lasers, and the one that I saw was on a aircraft carrier, because the aircraft carrier has the power. The problem with the lasers is they take a lot of power, and these missile destroyers don't have that kind of excess power. They nuclear plant like these aircraft carriers, which have 2 nuclear power plants, and they can fire these lasers all day long. But they mentioned that they didn't have to take the ships into dry dock and refit them, which is normally what happens when you have a new an introduction of a new weapon. They have to physically bring the ship in to refurbish some stuff and to be able to fit that in. They just put this thing on a pallet and bolted it down to an elevator. So when they need it, they just bring the elevator up, and the thing's just sitting on a pallet, just remotely connected, and starts shooting laser beams. And it gave us an arrow during one mission when it takes 2 to 3 seconds for that laser beam to take down one of those drones. It's a fiberglass drone, with the Shahid drones, but it's got to concentrate its laser into one weak point, the size of a quarter. It says it wants to concentrate it, and it's easy to do on those things. They fly slow and stable. But then the time went up to like 8 seconds, 7-8 seconds, because moisture came in. The weather changed, and they got moisture, and the moisture affects the laser. It's taking some of the energy and some of the punch out of the light, and so it changes. But it was interesting. And then the Shahid drones normally have a small, ICE engine, just a regular aircraft engine in it, that I mean, they're going to go like 100, 130 miles an hour. And they also have put a jet engine on one of them, like a mini jet engine on one of them, where we'll go 3 times as fast as that. And the laser couldn't stay pointed at a certain spot long enough to have an effect. So they brought up a different type of laser that wasn't going to try to destroy it, but one that blinded its ability to see. So the drone just flew overhead, crashed 3 or 4 miles away into the ocean. Um, some of the stuff these guys carry are just you just have no idea, and it all complements each other, and they've got lots of tools in that toolbox. Uh, from missiles to other guns and other armaments that they got their choices on how to take things out. But of course, the laser, that's the cheapest. It doesn't take a lot of energy. Well, it takes a lot of energy, not a lot relative to an aircraft carrier. They've got it. Uh, it's like a buck of energy. Although I don't know, those aircraft carriers sometimes they go to sea for what 50 years before they have to decommission them. It just wore out. And they don't have to refuel. They just keep going for 20, 30 years. You see, TSA is sounding alarms because of all this. Oh, and I got to tell you about the World Cup. I went out I told you I went out last night, which is unusual for me. I don't do that very often. I went out last night because Willie, and he's a guy that I've gotten to know uh, from the fights. We have the fights, the Yuma Fight League in town, which I've helped out with on some of the in-ring stuff and some of the commentators on the side of the fields and stuff. I'll do some work with microphone on them with them, talking to some of the fighters, and it's a blast for me. I enjoy it. And Willie is actually a professional at that, doing wrestling and all that. He helps out, and the two of us will sit ringside through these fights, which is just a great fun. And doing it with Willie has been very, very enjoyable, and I've gotten to know him pretty well. Well, he had his 41st birthday, and they call him Willie because he's in a wheelchair. Uh, he's a Marine, retired Marine, and I have no idea about his injuries. I don't know, but I know that he's in a wheelchair, and he's just got a heart of gold and really good at what he does. I mean, he's just excellent. I really love being out there with him. But he decided, or somebody decided that he's going to throw a little bash for him at Bodega, and now Bodega is on 16th Street, right across the street from the bowling alley, out there by Avenue A, close to there. It's a fairly, I guess, over a year. Maybe it's been a year. Used to be a Chinese restaurant in there that I'd go into occasionally, and it was not very many people in there very often. This place I've gone, and this is the second time I've gone. The first time I went during the day with some friends, and it was kind of loud and raucous, a lot of TV sets and stuff, and really couldn't have very easy conversations. But it was very well run. It was crowded, and every time I go by that place, there's no parking spots left. Everything's packed. Which is amazing, and I hear restaurants don't do well. There's restaurants not doing well, and that's true. There's restaurants that don't do well. And then somehow a place like this Bodega comes along, and they could be 10 times the size. And well, it look it it looks like I've got a problem with my computer. Let me take a break. I'll be right back. Test. Well, it looks like I'm back anyway. Test. Yeah. My computer became unplugged. I did not realize it, and the battery went dead. So anyway, I went to the bodega, and the place was packed up. They have valet parking and all that, and I didn't know what was going on in there. I was so busy on a Thursday night. It was the soccer game. Yeah, the Mexico against Korea, and the place was standing room only. Now Johnny Porter had already reserved a table in the back and all that, so we had a table. We didn't have to wait for all that, but we were able to get a place to sit down, which was good. The the noise in there, the noise level was much worse than I thought. I mean, they had it up so loud it was very hard. But beyond that, there were people in there with those horns. When you go to football games and stuff like that, and you'll know people with these big plastic horns and stuff, they had them indoors. And then these noisemakers that they spin around, the wooden ones that they spin around were so loud. And it was hilarious. But these people were having a great time, obviously. They were having a great time. Mexico won. So of course it was rockets. It was something else. It was hard to carry on a conversation with Willie and all that, but I understand. I did ask the waitress a few times if she could go out and talk to everybody and just tone it down, but she looked at me like I was crazy, and I was not serious. There was no way to get that done. That would not have been good. What a success story, the bodega. In restaurants that can't make it, I guess you got to pay attention to who you want in there and who's the clientele and what's going to happen. But Bodega found something that's made themselves unusually popular. They're just screaming with business. There's a few of them in town. Texas Roadhouse is always busy. Bodega is always busy, and then there's some restaurants that just aren't. But it's about marketing and a product and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that you're talking to your customers, and what they want. The people at Bodega, brilliant. They know what they want. They do, and most of the clients last night, though, most of them, I mean, really more than half, were dressed with Mexico uniform types on, soccer uniforms, or they have football, not American football, but regular football. That they were screaming, yelling, having a great time. It was, and even the waitresses were joining the party. They were just as happy, and the service was still good. Amazingly, that we got any service at all with the madhouse. I mean, it was a madhouse, and they have valet parking. The parking is so impossible. I parked at Mortgage One. Now, Mortgage One is a block or so away from the bodega. We're right down the street. So I just parked down here at Mortgage One. I couldn't even see a parking spot available. I didn't even try it. I drove by and I saw people cruising through the parking lot looking. I thought, no, I'm not going to join that. I'm out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else. Mortgage One's right up the street. We'll just park at Mortgage One. I'll walk in. I can make it a block. I'll do fine. But I thought that was interesting. And what brought it up is I started to talk about this article about TSA problems with the World Cup. And here's what TSA problems are. The TSA problems are people that are going back to Europe have found some American treasures that they want to take back with them, and some of them are not acceptable. You can't take it. Ranch dressing is one of them. Ranch dressing. I would not have thought that would not be available everywhere, that people wanted to have it. But apparently it's a big deal. Enough to where TSA had to put out messages to let people, and in fact, here's one of the posts they put out. They said, if you're visiting for a very large sporting event and you happen to discover ranch while you're here, please pack it in your checked bags on the way home. But you can't put them in the carry-ons. You can't carry fluids of any kind in the carry-ons past 3.5 ounces, I think, or something like that. But a lot of people are coming in with these oversized bottles of ranch dressing, and they had to put it out there, and then they followed that up the next day, said that they a day since the last ranch incident, 0. So I guess it was enough for them to take notice of it, that the ranch dressing was a big deal. One person said we should tell them about Chick-fil-A sauce that you could buy in large bottles too. Somebody else recommended powdered ranch. I don't think they make it. This is the most American thing I've read today. God bless America. Ranch in Europe is rare. Poor Europeans. I didn't know ranch dressing. I don't even know if it's good for you, but ranch dressing seems to be something that the Europeans have found out, and it's been fun watching the stories about the visitors coming in for the World Cup, and of course it's all over the United States. It's in Canada. It's in Mexico. Coming all over and discovering the United States and discovering how wonderful it is. They like it. You know, they're talking very positively about Europe and what's going on over here. So that's been eye-opening and very positive about that, about the World Cup coming to town. Towns, it's more than one. It's spread out, and it's going to still go on for a while. And I don't know when the final games are going to be, but the games are fun. Let me see. Switzerland is planning talks. We're going to talk a little bit about the Iran war and this letter of understanding thing that's going on. But there's a lot of negative press. Of course, Trump's involved, so I got to take some of the controversy and some of the negatives. For what it is. Sometimes it's just like, well, it's because Trump likes it, so I won't. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. There's so many anti-Trumpers out there. They cloud it, but you don't want to get caught up with that either. You want to make an honest assessment on whether it was a good deal or a bad deal. And for what I've seen, like, I'm in that percentage of give Trump his due and take his word for it, because things have been working out okay. And I know some people say, well, Iran's stronger now. In fact, Iran has come out and said they're now a superpower because they beat the United States. In their mind, or in their fantasies, they beat the United States simply because they survived. They survived, and they'll get what they want. And that's probably their plan. I don't think anyone thinks they're not lying. And of course, we talk about the devastation that was done to Iran and set them back and all that. And I know my business partner, Chris Moorhead, was adamant that they built back a lot and all that stuff, which they haven't built back that much, but not everything was taken out either. So I read a lot of estimates yesterday. I don't have them in front of me, but some of the missile programs that they had, half of that's still intact because it was buried underground. It wasn't used, and some of it was buried. In other words, the United States bombed the entrance to the caves, entrance to the mountain areas, and they could still dig some of those things out. They're thinking maybe 50% of the missiles are still available. What they did, which is devastating. Same with the drones. There was a lot of drones underground. Something the United States did do, and they bombed probably 80-90% of the manufacturing capability, because those were not underground. Manufacturing capability for the missiles, manufacturing capability for the drones. It doesn't mean that they don't still have some. Rocket launchers, the missiles have to be launched by these launchers. They said they had 400 of them to beginning with, and they took out 300, and some of those 300 have been refurbished or something, but they're greatly crippled. But to think that they're incapable of anything is wrong. They're not. And the strikes against the United States and the neighboring countries dwindled to like 10 down to 10% of what they were when they first started. They just didn't have everything available to them, and they were getting them knocked out. And some of that has been reopened, of course. Now the Navy ships are gone, the bigger ones, and most of the small with mosquito boats or PT boats, whatever you want to call them, are gone. But they still have teeth. There's still things out there that they've got. I'm not disagreeing with anybody on that. I think anybody does. Their Air Force, I think, is pretty much all gone. I don't think there's any kind of Air Force. Their radar systems were all pretty much all wiped out, as well as any detection ability they have. That's why Israel, Israel started all that. When they first went in and took a lot of that stuff out. And that hasn't been replaced. That's not easy to replace. That's not going to be replaced overnight. And that came from Russia and China, and there was a blockade stopping a lot of that stuff. Stuff was coming in by land, but not enough to replenish all that. They had some of it opened up again, and Trump bombed it right before the peace deals. When they weren't going to come to the table, and Trump took out their radar systems and stuff that were rejuvenated or brought back in line, and they were gone again. So they're very crippled. Their leadership's all leadership was pretty much wiped out to begin with. They're on second and third string, but they still exist. Understand, they still exist, and they're still menacing. Let's take a phone call. Good morning, Kyle. Carl.
Hey, good morning, Russ. How are we doing?
Good.
You're sounding real good again today. So
good. Well, I moved all the equipment, and I made a couple of. I didn't even plug my computer in properly, so it went dead.
Yeah.
It's back on the charge now.
Well, you're back in business.
Yeah.
But it's a work in progress, is what I would call it.
Well, I don't have a permanent setup just yet, or all the equipment we're going to have to be, at all. Right now, I'm working off my personal computer and some other stuff, but he's got great microphones, great cameras in here. So I'm very, very blessed.
Well, hell, he's a great person, so it goes along with what he does. So.
Absolutely, he cares about the community.
Yeah, well, I really think he'd do a good job in the city council.
Yeah, it's tough to get right, and I hope you right. I mean, it is a tough one to go. It's not easy to do that. But
anyway, I want to give you my 2 cents for today.
Yeah.
The Colorado River Tea Party has put together, it's a magnetic sticker that goes on the refrigerator, and it says America First, 250-year celebration of freedom.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm inviting people when they come up to I guess it's a convention center ballpark. I would like them to stop by our booth and pick up one of these magnetic stickers and take it home and put it on the refrigerator, and that will help us. We can stick around for another 250 years. Very important.
Now,
so,
what date are we talking about?
4th of July.
Oh, 4th of July there. Okay, yeah, it's going to be the Ray Kroc Field there.
Yes.
Okay.
So we need people picking up these magnetic stickers, because I think for all of our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, and all the people in the United States, it would be good to stick around for another 250 years.
Absolutely. We're still a young country.
Yeah. And if we have leadership like President Trump does, we will stick around for another 250 years. If the Democrats get it, we're going to go down the tubes, and there's no telling what the hell we'll end up. So,
good possibility. Unfortunately,
that's my 2 cents for today, Russ, and you have a very, very good weekend.
Thank you, my friend. You too.
Bye.
As Mr. Carl calling in. Let me see. During the peace talks as are going on, and this memorandum or whatever, it's a 60-day pause while they do peace, negotiation, iron it all out. Although there's some things that are in there that's supposed to be firm, like the Strait of Hormuz stays open, and it's supposed to be open today. And I know yesterday, I think millions of barrels of oil went through, on ships, and hopefully today is continuing the same thing. Something else is in there is Israel. Israel's mentioned in that. Israel and Hezbollah are supposed to stop any kind of kinetic injury, kinetic traffic going back and forth. Which on the surface is a good thing. But that's the reason Hezbollah exists, is to attack Israel. That's a proxy of Iran, and Iran wants to include them. that if there's no deal unless Hezbollah is also a ceasefire, and that was in there and agreed to, as long as Hezbollah doesn't attack Israel. If they do, then Israel has the openness and the right to attack back. Well, that just happened right away. According to the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, a short while ago, in response to the repeated violations of the ceasefire by the Hezbollah terrorist organization, the IDF struck 2 Hezbollah command centers in the Bekaa Valley while Hezbollah terrorists were operating inside. Overnight, the IDF struck more than 80 command centers, terrorist launch positions, and additional terrorist infrastructure sites in the area of Nebath and additional areas in southern Lebanon within the security zone and beyond it. Furthermore, during the strikes, dozens of Hezbollah terrorists operating in the command centers were eliminated. And the reason for that is that Hezbollah killed 4 Israeli soldiers in southern Lebanon. Like they all agreed to the peace terms that we won't attack you. So they go into southern Lebanon and kill 4 Israeli soldiers, and Israel strikes 80 targets. Now, some people say, well, Israel's a bad player. They don't play fair because they just killed 4. You probably killed hundreds. It's unbalanced. Well, it's not a thing. Well, you kill 4, I kill 4. It's not that. They said don't strike, and they did. Now, I haven't heard that disrupted anything. That the peace talks are kind of going forward, except it was put on hold, and I don't know if this Hezbollah and Lebanon thing put it on hold. They're not really saying, but President J.D. Vance scrapped plans to travel to Switzerland on Friday, which was today, which was the next rounds of the talks. Now that we're in a ceasefire and all that, and everything's open, and some people are criticizing Trump. Republicans and Democrats, which we have to pay attention to, criticizing Trump because Iran, during the ceasefire, is allowed to move oil, sell it, and collect money. And there's many that would like to say, then Ted Cruz is one of them, and I think Lindsey Graham maybe, that we shouldn't let them have any money at all. Well, they've got to offer them something. I mean, there's got to be enough to at least eat. And hopefully they're not going to use it to fund Hezbollah, and hopefully they're not going to use it to fund more terrorists. But they've got a couple $1 trillion of infrastructure that has been destroyed. They're not going to earn enough money in a short amount of time to replace all that. They've got choices to get their people back working normally, because a lot of unemployment now in Iran. Inflation is out of sight. There's a lot of scarcity of foods, and there's a lot of scarcity of everything right now that they've got to catch up on, and you can't take all the money away and expect them, to not feed people. We've got to do that, I guess. I don't necessarily have the answers. I'm just reading what a lot of commentators are already saying, and what reality is going on out there. But we'll see. We'll see. Derek just come in. He's laughing at me because I got into comfortable chairs today. All right, I moved. But we don't know where it's all going, except that we know that Switzerland is not going to be holding talks today. And basically, they say we will let you know as soon as we have a concrete update about the next step. We look forward to beginning technical talks as soon as possible. Macron calls Trump-Iran memorandum an encouraging step towards peace. And I don't know, the French president is trying to make amends with Trump. I mean, they haven't had a great relationship. But Macron said Wednesday that President Trump signed tonight at Versailles the agreement between Iran and the United States. This agreement paves the way for lasting peace and allows the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, saying that the deal was an important step in the right direction for our compatriots and will soon enable a decrease in energy prices. That decrease is already happening. Surprising to me, but you can get gas now for under $4 a gallon in Yuma. I haven't checked it every day, but it shouldn't have gone down that fast. I was kind of surprised it did because just because oil is down, and I don't know where Brent crude is right now, but Brent, as you know, was like $120 at the worst of it, and right now it's at 77.25. It got as low as 75, but right now it's at 77, and it takes months for that to be processed. And right now we're working on oil that we paid a lot more for, so it doesn't go down right away. Let me see. Arco is at 410 today. See, it was at 399, so it actually went up a dime, which I was surprised it went down to 399. I don't really know why that happened when it did. Uh, so it's 420, and right now in the nation it's just under $4 average. Average just under $4. Let me see. Oh, different website here for it's more current. 399. It's still 399 at Arco, according to this website. Barron Fuel is 404. That's gone down. Love's is 415. That's a little bit down. So I don't know how they're doing it. Get it down so fast. They see good things coming. Iran U.S. agreement allows Tehran to keep enriched material and unlocks frozen funds, and that's the rub, and that's what some people are really complaining about. The enriched material, and it doesn't. And I think the headline of allowing him to keep it is not really what you're thinking. In other words, they're not going to cart it off right now. Right now, and according to the memorandum of understanding, the enriched nuclear material will stay inside the country right now, and it's going to be. And now they don't have the capability currently to bring it up because it's buried under rock. Apparently, the United States has equipment, and possibly China, according to President Trump, might have the equipment to do that. But the memorandum is supposed to say that no one touches it until the United States can get in there, and they'll bring it up, and they'll dilute it in the country. That we're not going to take it. And some people say that that's Trump, lost because he said that he said he wanted to remove it, which he did. But I guess this is negotiations for peace, and as long as they can't use it for anything, I guess it's good. And Trump says is that Space Force has got eyes on it 24/7, and anybody goes in there that shouldn't go in there, it's a violation of the memorandum and re-energizing the kinetic injury, that may go through. Articles 8 through 14 of the memorandum outline restrictions on U.S. military activity in the region and establish a framework for continued negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. So, I think the headlines are misleading at best on some of this stuff. It's misleading. The Senator Schmidt, Eric Schmidt, he's a Republican out of Missouri. He said President Donald Trump accomplished what experts previously believed could not be achieved in the war against Iran after brokering an agreement to end the conflict. President Trump was very clear from the beginning about the mission here, which was to ensure that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon. They would no longer have the ability to do that. And now they're signing on the dotted line for the first time that they won't pursue it. And we don't need to trust them. We just need to verify. I think that's true. I think everybody universally thinks we can't trust them. They're going to cheat line still. That they'll do it anyway. President Obama swears that his deal was better, which of course it wasn't. What the president has done is create space for diplomacy, which has always been his North Star. There's still more work to do, and we need to verify all of this. But he's accomplished something that most experts 6 months ago would have said was impossible. I think it's a good outcome for the American people. What the left is saying right now, though, Hakeem Jeffries in the crowd, is that it was a war that Trump wanted to do. It was he decided to do it, and the Strait of Hormuz was open before. He's the one that closed it. Trump did, because he decided on war. And on the surface, some of that's true. I mean, Trump did stand up to Iran where no one else would after 47 years. Or I say no one. Reagan did. Reagan at one time took out half their naval fleet. Of course, they rebuilt a lot of that now over time, and the other than that, we give a lot of rhetoric, and then Biden gave him money, Obama gave him money, and Trump has not. And he says, according to the memorandum, money's available to them from their neighboring countries for rebuilding and all that. And then the neighboring countries would have to keep an eye on it, which is, I think, the best of both worlds. But we hear that he closed the strait, and it's his fault about all of that. And yeah, him standing up to Iran, they closed the strait, which they had planned to do. That's what they prepared for. It's what they mined it. They had a lot of drones and rockets embedded in the hills around the strait, just for if anybody ever defied them, that was their big threat. That will shoot and kill everybody and all that. And that's what they did. Not unexpected, but somebody had to. I mean, that's the only way to keep them from being the bully, because they were continuously being the bully, and somebody had to do it. And Trump did. Trump did. Good for them. The Pakistani displayed the signed MOU as Iran and U.S. strike historic agreement, and they were instrumental, I guess. The Pakistanis were instrumental in helping the memorandum of understanding and the negotiations that seemed to go on forever and go nowhere. They did. Called off, gone on, and it was just a huge state. A huge stage for the Iranians to look like they were in control. And Donald Trump was patient. He still is patient. It's just kind of unbelievable. And it bugs people. There's bug people like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is not patient. On Wednesday, he said that President Trump received bad advice, and it is not a good idea to give Iran hundreds of billions of dollars as part of the memorandum of understanding. And it's not that we're giving it to him; we're allowing him to sell the oil. And Ted Cruz would rather have him not have that, which of course then we would continue with destruction. History teaches that giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is not a good idea. I think the president received some very poor advice on that deal. And that's after the Trump administration released full text of the peace deal with Iran, which includes lifting sanctions on Iran on oil exports and giving Iran access to a total of $300 billion reconstruction fund. Bill Cassidy, which he hates Trump, so I take what he says, in that context. He said Reagan is rolling over in his grave. Iran's nuclear ambitions were not curbed, and they have not learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works. And they have learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works, and will undoubtedly leverage it in the future. Now, Iran gets to build brand new infrastructure under the deal. Before the war, the strait was open. Iran was being crushed by sanctions, and 13 service members were still alive. Now, 13 Americans are dead. Families have paid billions at the pump. Sanctions will be lifted, and the bombing is stopped. This is the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Now, I guess that's easy to say from a Monday morning quarterbacking that wouldn't have done any of this in the first place. It would have just paid them and let them stay the bullies and continue to arm up and get towards a nuclear weapon, which would have been used by them. These guys are radical crazy. They don't care about life and death. They care about control. The Pope is praising the deal. But, the Pope has been pretty harsh on Mr. Trump, and Trump doesn't hesitate not to snap back. He says snap back. Pope Leo hailed the new agreement between the United States and Iran to end the war in the Middle East, adding that he hoped for strengthened mutual trust, security, and stability in the region. I welcome with satisfaction the reaching of an agreement between the Islamic Republic and Iran, the United States of America, which will be signed on Friday, which is today, but they actually signed it beforehand, as an encouraging result of patient work and dialogue and negotiation. I express my gratitude to the countries that have worked to facilitate a meeting between the parties and to make this agreement possible. Now, Leo denounced the conflict since it began. Of course, denounced Trump. I don't think he's a Trump fan. I hope that the agreement may strengthen mutual trust, security, stability in the Middle East, promoting passive dialogue, cooperation amongst people. I think it's a nice idea. I don't think anyone expects it to be, without any bumps. There's going to be bumps. I don't think anybody trusted Iran to stick to their word and then act like they were the ones offended. Well, we'll see. We'll see. And Donald Trump's back from G7 now. I think it was amazing when he walks into G7 and says, "I'm the boss." I kind of agree. I don't have a desk in front of me, so it's hard to keep my paper straight, but I'll figure that out. Arizona health officials. This article that I saw this morning. They're talking about the opioids and opioid overdoses, the opioid fights, and we know that the overdoses and opioids has been horrific for our country. And I didn't really realize that the peak years of the opioid crisis was 2017. So it's been going on that long, and then that was the peak, 2017. So we're 9 years in. No, more than that. I mean, it was spooling up to 2017, but 9 years since the peak. So it's continuing on. Now, some of the new good news that's on its way is that the overdose deaths, have dropped by approximately 20% in Phoenix and Tucson, and that's compared to the previous year. So it dropped 20% in a year. But 2017 was the peak. Since 2017, the Phoenix area, Maricopa County, decreased by 55%. And I know during the peak, we were supposed to have had lost like 100,000 people nationwide to overdose. I don't think they were all opioids, but the vast majority were 100,000. So even if it drops half, it's still a lot of folks. 40% in Pima County, 48% in Pinal County. No reports there on Yuma, but I'm sure we're somewhere in those areas, I would think. Although I read something the other day that Yuma wasn't having quite the same success as some of the others because we're so close to the border and we still have access more easily to the problem. And this article says, despite the good news, officials stress about the seriousness of the issue, that opioid overdoses continuing to claim an average of 5 lives every day. I don't know where they come up with the 5 lives every day, but in 100 days, that'd be 500 lives. I mean, yeah, 500 lives. Are we losing thousands, in Arizona? I guess so. I guess it was 100,000 nationwide. So yeah, 5 lives every day. It just seems like such a large number. 5 a day, and that's in the reduced numbers. Numbers have been reduced. The synthetic opioid fentanyl is now the major driver of deaths, and that's according to Maricopa. And you can look that up on maricopa.gov. Synthetic opioid fentanyl. And all that originates, at least the chemicals and the ability to build all that comes from China. Now, a lot of it's manufactured in Mexico City, but the raw material and the stuff to build it comes out of China. And I know there's been talk or supposedly progress on getting that stopped and stopping those shipments. But if it's still happening, then it still continues, I guess. Something that's helping the situation, and of course, we're 5 lives every day, but it would be more, except that we have that Narcan they call the lock zone. The Narcan, of course, I remember when it first came out, very expensive, but hospitals had it. And then they start taking it on the field because they realize there's what they call a golden hour. And the golden hour is that somebody has an overdose. They need that Narcan pretty immediately. You need it now in order to save a life and or damage to a life. So now so many people, the police, the firefighters, and outreach workers now carry. A lot of households carry it. I know it was made free for households for quite a while. You could get some in case you suspected that some of your family members or something might have a problem and might someday have an overdose, and you'd want to take care of it. And you would need that naloxone to do that, or the Narcan. Counties are also investing in long-term solutions, not just go ahead and overdose and we'll give you a shot and we'll take care of you. Because they've committed millions of dollars. And I always hesitate when I hear millions of dollars. Because there's that feeling that money's going to fix our problems, and it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, you do need money to buy Narcan. You need money to do some stuff. But just to say, to put in there that we're committed because we're doing millions of dollars and we're funding to expand treatment and prevention programs. I'm not against any one of those. I'm not against the treatment or the prevention, but just the money alone. Sometimes we spend the money just for people to study the problem and people to oversee the problem, like all the money that's spent on the homeless in some of these major cities. You start getting the numbers where they're spending an average of $100,000 a year per every homeless person in some of these major cities, and it's not going to the homeless person. It's going to the people that are administrating the programs. It's a make money scheme, which I think should be found. I mean, some of that sounds like scams to me. Get your buddy to be the NGO that's handling the homeless situation, and somebody's making a lot of money, getting $100,000 per homeless person in some of these major cities. Drug trends change rapidly, according to this, and they say opioids might decrease, but a new, more powerful drug could emerge any time. I don't know why you'd put that in there. Why would you say that? No, there's no use in working on it. You just get a different drug. But they want continued funding, education, community outreach are the keys to keeping overdose numbers from moving in the right direction, or to move them in the right direction. Maybe. I hope so. I know recidivism is huge. The courts are tied up with drug traffickers and drug addicts. The courts are, because people on drugs usually make bad decisions, and bad decisions might be including trying to acquire enough money to buy more drugs, maybe through any kind of means possible, including illegal means. And there has been in Human and other places something called drug court. And drug court was an opportunity to get people to reduce sentences and all that by agreeing to go into programs of rehabilitation and all that. And they've actually had much better success. Nothing's 100%, but they've had much better success with that. And getting people out of the system is where we need to be. And I don't think that takes a lot of money to do some of the drug court stuff. And I've gone to some of those. I've gone to some of those. I guess graduations they have. They have those graduations where people have been through those courts and have succeeded in getting through them. Okay, I'm going to talk about ice cream. I shouldn't. I do like ice cream. We do not keep it in the house. Well, because it would be hard to keep it in the house because I would find a way to eat it probably. But there was an article they put out here about the states that are the most ice cream obsessed. 50 states. They went through all 50 states in Washington, D.C. They did this between April of 25 and April of 26. And Interbody Research found that New Jersey I wouldn't have guessed New Jersey, but yeah, New Jersey. That's America's most obsessed state. They do this analyzing Google search. I guess depending on where you are and what you're asking for. I guess in Google search, people are looking for ice cream. And number 2 was Delaware, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York. So it looks like it's a Northeast thing. 7 of the top 10 enthusiastic states were on the East Coast. New Hampshire coming in at 6, Maine at number 8. Now, the least enthusiastic states, there's got to be something wrong with them that don't like ice cream. Arkansas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. I don't know. They've got better things to do. Strawberry is the undisputed national champion. This is where this article's disputed, and they're saying that right now, but then they change. When it comes to searches, not just on searches. If you're searching, strawberry is the number 1 search. And that's according to Interbody. It was the most searched for flavor nationwide. And the favorite in California, Texas, Michigan, chocolate chip and cookie dough came in ahead of plain chocolate and vanilla. Yeah. In 2025, vanilla was the most ordered ice cream. And accounted for 20% of all ice cream sold during the season, followed by chocolate, number 2. See, that's the stuff I would expect versus strawberry. But chocolate's currently America's favorite, according to the International Dairy Foods Association. A different organization says, no, it's chocolate. And they're doing their biannual National Ice Cream and Frozen Novelty Trends Survey. Number 2, according to them, the International Dairy Foods Association, is butter pecan, followed by vanilla. And then there's an executive director of North American Ice Cream Association. You didn't know there were so many, did you? There are. A guy named Steve Christensen. He's the executive director. He's surprised that New England and the broader Northeast ranked high on the list of ice cream searches. He said the region has become the highest concentration of ice cream shops per capita. So he's not surprised. Vermont has the strongest concentration of ice cream shops. 18.51 shops per 100,000 residents. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, New York, also in the top 10 on the number of shops. I didn't know ice cream was such a big deal. We had so many organizations and stuff. The Midwest didn't really feature highly in some of the stats here. They love their butterfat. They love their sugar. They love their sweet things. They may have been misrepresented. The Midwest needs a little bit of oomph when it comes to the ice cream stats in the study. Going to an ice cream shop is like a 15-minute vacation. Yeah, that's according to the executive director of the association. He's got to say that. Let me see. The average American eats 18 pounds of ice cream each year. It's about 4 gallons. 4 gallons of ice cream a year is the average. That means some people eat none, and you're eating 8 is what that means. That's probably what that means. And there is a move towards brands that using less processed, more natural sweeteners are gaining popularity, indicative of people's health consciousness and concerns about their waistlines. Well, I don't think that helps the waistline, even if it's natural. I don't think so. People are selling it at farmers market. They're making ice cream at home and selling it at farmers market. That's been common. I didn't know that. The only time it mentions mint says those in the Northeast tend to gravitate to more crisp, clean vapors like mint, while the West Coast has very strong emerging new flavors like matcha. And internet searches show that people are passionate about their local brand. There you go. 18 pounds of ice cream average. If you work hard, though, you can top that. Sneak fiber into your meal. Let me see. The a top defense chief quits. U.S. ally, not us, but quits. Prime ministers, Starmer's, that's British government, is failing to adequately fund the military despite threats from Russia and growing NATO demands. I think Trump has been saying that for some time about not just England, but many of European countries are just not getting it done, not supporting NATO. That's been one of his beefs since 2016, which has made some movement to improve, but nobody's really gotten off the dime yet and gone. John Healy is recently resigned. Let me see. It says, and he put in a resignation letter. He said the government has failed, and he's the chief, the defense chief. The government has failed to commit the resources needed to execute Britain's long-term defense strategy, arguing the country's armed forces risk being left short of the money, personnel, and industrial capacity needed to meet mounting security challenges. This new era for defense requires further investment through the Defense Investment Plan. Since then, you have been unable, and the Treasury has been unwilling to commit the resources and the nation needs to defend the country at the time of rising threats. I mean, we've been saying that for a decade. I mean, Trump's been around for almost a decade now, and telling them that, look, he came down that escalator in 2016, and he's been complaining about this all along, that the United States has been carrying too much for Europe. And I think the right thing for him to do is to reduce those troops in Europe. So they can look around, they can't look around and say, well, the U.S. has got this. We can spend our money on social services, and we'll spend our money on free medical, that kind of stuff. And we'll let the United States taxpayers pay for our defense. It hasn't been fair at all. Haley's departure appears to stem from a dispute over the pace and scale of future defense spending. Well, Britain is, and like many European countries, has said, look, we're listening, and we're going to make changes, and here's the changes we're going to make. But those changes are spread out over decades. They don't jump in. They're going to be, oh yeah, we'll do a little bit, I guess, and then knowing that Trump's going to be out of office. In a letter, he argued that Britain should commit to spending 3% of gross domestic product by defense by 2030, and criticized a government funding plan that said we would reach only 2.68% by the end of the decade. The commitment to NATO is much higher than that. And they're not even willing to get up to there by 2030. Andrew Fox, a senior associate fellow with the Henry Jackson Society, said the government cannot warn about Russia, Iran, China, then produce a defense investment plan that leaves the armed forces short of the money, people, stockpiles, and industrial capacity needed to meet that threat. For Kern Storma and now attested seriousness, a defense secretary resigning over national security tells our allies, our enemies, and our own troops that Britain's defense ambitions are not being properly funded. Healy has been one of Stormer's most loyal cabinet members, so he was not an anti-Stormer. He was a loyal guy, loyal to Stormer. And Stormer, and he doesn't like Trump either, even though Trump went to the G7 and walked in and says, "I'm the boss." I could watch that clip over and over again. I mean, it's just typical Trump to walk into the room and say, "I'm the boss," and that's the reason Obama didn't have him. Because if Trump is in the room, he takes all the oxygen out. And I'm sure Michelle wouldn't have had that. I mean, because as it was, the Obama library was about Michelle, not about Donald. It was about Michelle Obama. She made sure of that. I think Barry is just a stand-in at this point, man. He looks really neutered around her. She pretty much runs the roost. Starmer is already battling questions about his political future, apparently, electoral setbacks and growing unrest within his own party. It arrives at a pivotal moment for NATO, alliance leaders recently agreed to significantly increase defense spending targets amid continued concerns about Russia's military ambitions and growing pressure from Donald Trump. But I don't think they're serious. I mean, when they say, okay, we'll get up to 2.68 by the end of the decade, kind of crazy. Now, Healy, the resigned guy, John Healy, he's been telling Parliament and Stormer that, was determined to publish the defense investment plan before the upcoming NATO summit on July 7th. And when he learned the final details of the spending settlement only days before his resignation. So, he was pushing it. He felt good about it. They gave him the details. He says, I'm out of here. Or maybe he'll move over to the United States or Poland. Poland's spending money. Europe's flagship Future Combat Air System 6th Generation fighter project collapsed after years of dispute between France and Germany, raising fresh doubts about the continent's ability to execute major defense initiatives despite repeated pledges to strengthen its military posture. And that happened recently. I read some on the plane. It just wasn't performing. It's fallen. It's not living up to what they thought it was, which is not a help. They're already struggling. I guess they need to buy some F-35s, even though they've had their problems, as far as keeping them airworthy. We have too many that are stuck in the hangar waiting on parts. Robert Jenrick, now one of Reform's most prominent, the United Kingdom again, prominent figures, praised Haley. Of course, yeah, he's a political opponent. So he praised him and blamed Starmer and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. He wrote, good on Healy, shame on them. Reeves and Starmer should go. So it's all politics. I don't know anyone that's claiming they're going to spend the money, though. Not in England. It doesn't sound like, it sounds like Europe is getting the message a little bit, but I don't think their actions show that they're very serious about protecting themselves. Don't know. Yuma County tax increase. It's going to be there's a truth in taxation. See, anytime the county raises taxes, and that's what they've done, they've raised the taxes. Anytime the county does that, they have to hold a meeting. That's just kind of like in the law. You got to hold a meeting so that people, public comment, you can go down and do a public comment. Go down and say, I don't like it. Whatever you want to say. It's going to be on June 23rd at the Board of Supervisors Auditorium. That's at 197 South Main Street in Yuma. I've not been in that building since they've redone it or built it, I guess. They redid it, then they destroyed it, and then they rebuilt it. But it's in compliance with Section 42-1701 of the Arizona Revised Statutes, and are notifying its property taxpayers of Yuma intention to raise its primary property tax over the last year's level. They're proposing an increase in primary taxes of $821,538, or 2.02%. The proposed tax increase will cause Yuma's primary property taxes on a $100,000 home to be $242.56. Total proposed taxes, including the tax increase. And that's just for Yuma County. That's not just the library and the other stuff and the flood stuff. But without the proposed tax increase, the total taxes would on the same property would be $237.75. So it's going to go from $237.75 up to $242. So roughly $5 more per year. And that's just for the county, though. The proposed increase exclusively increased primary property tax received from the new construction. In other words, they're asking for the total. And that's what the way they do taxes is there's a budget that they come up with, and they say, this is the amount of money we need. And then they give that, to the recorders and all that stuff. And they say, okay, find out the property values and divide it by that. That's the number we need to collect. So figure it out. And that's where they adjust the rates. They don't do rates first. They do how much money do we need, and then they go back and do the rates to receive that goal. And it's not including new property. They're not speculating on new property. This is just what's existing at the time. So they'll actually collect more than that because new property will be coming online. The Yuma County Library District, see, it's its own district, intent to raise its secondary property tax over last year's. Yuma County Library District proposed an increase in secondary property tax of $213,497 or 1.81%. So that's going to add for that same $100,000 house. It's going to go from $68.91 to $70. So it doesn't, so like no big deal. It's only a little over $1. It all adds up. And then the flood district, that's another tax. It's going to raise its 4.06%, which I'm worried about. The flood district collects a lot of money out there, and there's a lot of issues in flooding. Ongoing flooding. I mean, there's communities in where I live, it floods every year, all the time. The roads get flooded, and you can't drive down them, and the city has to come in and spend all this money to turn pumps on and to get the water out, and it happens with regularity. Now I know there was a bond, or not a bond, but a grant. I'm sorry, a grant that was that was actually achieved. I mean, they went out and applied for and got the grant awarded for, I think, between $4 and $5 million to fix my neighborhood. Yeah, to fix it. They're going, but to fix it, they need to put in different pumping stations. Different, and different pipes. And they're going to rearrange things. I was hoping it would be started by now. The money's been there. The money's been done, but it hasn't started. I keep looking for shovels in the ground. It hasn't. I need to call them again and find out where we are. But we got monsoons coming, and right now, with this weather patterns that are going on, we're expecting them to be heavy. They could be heavy rains this year. We could have some good rains. That's good and bad. We need the rains to fill up our reservoirs and stuff like that. We're in a drought, and any relief is welcomed. But I may have a flood in my house, and the money's setting there. The plans are setting there, and I don't see any shovels in the ground yet. I need to call them and say, look, the clock's ticking. The rain's going to be coming. We hopefully we can get something done. Let me see. You coming to flood district is adds $24.87 to the taxes, and that's up from $23.90. So just a little less than $1 for that also. So you can go and ask them, why are you doing this? Now they did $100,000 home. The average house price now is closer to $300,000, I think. So it's 3 times that. So start becoming real money at that point. Well, I guess that would be $100,000 assessed. I don't know where that goes to actual value. I'd have to take a look, but the Truth in Taxation public hearing notices we published at the Yuma Sun on June 7th and June 14th, which it's already happened. And if you have any questions, you can talk to Lucia Gomez at the Yuma County Office of Management and Budget, 928-373-1057, and ask questions. I don't know if that does you any good. But by law, they have to have these. By law, they have to do it. It's going to be on 9 o'clock in the morning on June 23rd, right there at Main Street. So if nothing else, you can go in and give them a piece of your mind. Let them know how you feel. It's your right. I may have covered this, but let me. I'll mention it again. I can't remember if I did or not the other day, but Hillary Clinton, was giving jabs at Donald Trump about the UFC thing. UFC, and I understand that fighter that said that Donald Trump's or that Barack Obama's wife Michelle was a man. He got fired by Dana White. Yeah, right thing to do. That's fine. But Hillary Clinton said that, talking about the White House where they had the event and all that kind of stuff. It's not his house, but our house, which is really rude to say. And look, he didn't have a fight for Donald Trump. He had a fight for the country. For the 250th, there were 85,000 people that didn't have to pay. It was free. And he got people to donate, like, the promoters did not charge admission. Normally you do those things. It'd be thousands and thousands of dollars to sit ringside. You don't even get to watch for that. This was free at the lawn of the White House. How great would that have been? I mean, that was just a wonderful opportunity if you could get in. And everybody could get in, if you were the first to ask for a ticket. Now, getting in on the White House lawn, I think that was a little more special. You probably had to be invited, but the 80,000 that went to the grounds next door, that was just on the internet. You could have done that. Hillary Clinton says, remember, during today's literal cage match at the White House grounds, no matter what, it's not his house, it's our house. Get a hat, coaster, or sticker, or some support group and candidates who will respect the form and the function of the people's house. Which Hillary's husband didn't really treat the people's house with respect. And I think, and they rented out the Lincoln bedroom, if you remember. I guess people that donated money could spend the night in the Lincoln bedroom, for certain donations and stuff, not including the Bills activities in the place. And then the vandalism. I don't know if you remember the vandalism, but they did. I think Obama got involved in that too. But the vandalism of taking the W's off of the computers, so that W. Bush had to replace the computer screens or the computer keyboards. It was just kind of crazy with the Clintons. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Buzz Patterson, who carried the Bill Clinton's football, the nuclear button and all that. He says, I was an Air Force lieutenant colonel who carried the nuclear football for your husband inside that people's house you're suddenly so precious about. I saw it up close for 2 years. While Bill was getting a BJ in the Oval Office from an intern and groping female Air Force enlisted crew on Air Force One, you lecture about respect for the institution while your husband lost the nuclear codes. And when you finally slinked out in 2001, you and your crew trashed the place, vandalism, theft. The GAOA confirmed it. Set down, and then he used the B word. The adults are back in charge. Tom Fenton from Judicial Watch. Woman who stole White House furniture has something to say about our house. And apparently they did. They also took some of the artwork. They had artwork commissioned. It was some ugly stuff. I was in the Rose Garden on a tour when the Clintons were in. And they had some god-awful, ugly artwork in the Rose Garden. It was African stuff. I don't know, but it was terrible. They stole some of that, and they had to return it. They did. Accountability Office investigation requested by Bob Barr, Republican out of Georgia, estimated $15,000 in damage to the White House, according to the news reports at the time. The administration treated the building worse than college freshmen checking out of a dorm room. It concluded that some pranks were clearly intentional, which constitute a criminal act, while Clinton supporters said the damage was commensurate with that of prior administration. So that's the whole excuse that, well, everybody does it. But amazingly, no one gets arrested. If you do this thing in the private sector, there would be a little bit more problems. Um, Fortunately, no one's getting arrested at this level. They just kind of accept it. Illegal alien charged with killing 4 people. And it wasn't with a firearm. It was just driving while intoxicated. Driving while intoxicated and then going the wrong way on a highway. Happened in Oklahoma. Happened last Tuesday. Happened on Tuesday. Michael Rosario Cruz, 27, released from a hospital and booked into Canadian County Jail. Canadian County Jail on a slew of charges. 4 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of DUI causing great bodily injury, transporting an open container, firearm possession, carrying firearms while under the influence, and driving the wrong way on a one-way road. He was driving early Friday, and that was last week or so, westbound in the eastbound lanes of Interstate 40 in Canadian County. Oh, it's Canadian County, not country, Canadian County. And I didn't know we had a Canadian county. And he struck another vehicle head on. And that's according to Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And God bless those guys. I mean, the patrol officers and the emergency response crews and all those guys that have to go to those scenes and get that cleaned up and get that sorted out and get that figured out. That's nightmare stuff to have to go through that. All 4 people in the struck vehicle, which caught fire, were killed. They range in age from 18 to 20. The victims were identified and, put the names down here, which isn't important, but they were 20, 19, and then 2 of them at 18. The Highway Patrol put out in the media that driving impaired is reckless, life-changing decision. The loss of these young lives will have a lasting impact on countless families, members, and friends and communities. And a spokesperson for the Oklahoma Highway Patrol said that Rosario Cruz is the subject of a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainer request, meaning ICE is asked to be notified of his release from custody so they can arrest him and begin deportation proceedings. 4 victims recently remembered at a vigil in El Reno High School, where 3 of them had recently graduated. So these are recent graduates. Retired teacher Nancy, who had the 3 of them as students, said, you just make that connection that never goes away. They're always your kids. And when something like this happens, we come together. Kind of crazy. That this stuff continues to happen and we still don't do enough about it. We still don't find a solution. All right. I need to take a break, and we're gonna be right back. And with Mortgage One Studios with Russ Clark, we'll be right back. Mortgage One Studios, Russ Clark back with you. Phone lines are open 928 941 0304. I'm going to go through some of the comments from listeners. And let me see. The Obama is currently ranked around 10th or 11th among presidents, Trump around 44. I don't worry about that stuff. I don't know how that ranking's done and who does it, but it changes over time. And I think we'll get Trump's real numbers after he's out of office. Higher than Buchanan, Pierce or Fillmore, surprised by the rankings. What country hasn't stolen land? Human nature. I mean, it's been wars and conquests, all of written history. Blow up a building to kill one regardless of collateral damage, learning from the masters, the Israelis. And that's a comment I know that was put on the Israelis that they do. And so many negatives about the Israelis because they are very effective. And if they're struck, they're going to strike back, and they strike back hard. And yet people continue to throw bombs at them. And a lot of the critics never say, well, Hezbollah, shot missiles every day for the last 10 days before that happened. But that's exactly what happens. Hezbollah exists for one reason, and that's to eliminate and kill Israelis. And that's what they do. And we wouldn't put up with it if we had that same attack from Mexico. If Mexico lobbed bombs into us every day, would we say that, well, we shouldn't have blown up the whole building? Well, and I think people look at it, they say, well, Israelis are so much more powerful, but Israelis have so much better weaponry and so much more intelligence. They should play fair and not kill everybody. I don't know where you get that, but look, if these guys are out to kill you every day, you got to get a stop to it, and you don't stop it by trading off one for one. From what I read, most analysts agree that Iran won strategically, and I haven't read anything that says that Iran didn't win. What did they win? What did Iran win? Survival? They won their survival, and that's a low bar. But that's what Iran counts, and that's what some of these other people are counting, is that they won because they still survive. Well, the intention was never to stop them from surviving. The goals were laid out many times, even though they say it wasn't. That was to stop the nuclear projects that they had, to get them to not build nuclear bombs, and then to keep the straits open after that. And I think we've achieved all that right now. We've achieved all that. Now, Iran does exist right now. It does. And I know J.D. Vance has been talking about this a lot right now, particularly because of the memorandum. But there's some questions about the memorandum on was it the right one? Did we do the right thing? Is it going to stop the nuclear bombs? And something that does go far enough, like Ted Cruz and all, that we shouldn't send any money to them. Ever, they can't eat or rebuild. And I'm certainly not an expert on it, and just looking at it, I understand it. Trump doesn't want to kill everybody. People complain when Israel does it, and they're complaining that Trump isn't doing it. I guess that he has bombs, and he has opportunities to wipe them off the face of the earth, and just to knock everything completely down, and he does, and he knows he does. And he resisted it. He said, I don't want to take out all the powers, the power plants, the infrastructure, the bridges, and all that stuff. And he could. We have the capability, and it wouldn't be hard. Give it a week, and there wouldn't be anything left that's along those lines. It would put them back into the Stone Ages, because they can't move things around. They don't have power, and that would turn off all the water. And I think 80 million people would mostly have to be evacuated. So I don't see that Iran won anything other than their existence. They still exist. And then now they've got to answer to the people who have lost everything, and many of them through the inflation, the lack of food, and losing businesses and losing home sides, because they can't afford it anymore. I mean, they're going to have to answer to all the people. Now, granted, they have a good handle on them. They just shoot you if you complain. But during this whole fiasco going on inside Iran, there were Iranians that took over cities, Iranians that killed police officers, that took their equipment, that did all that, and the uprisings and all that. I don't know what they won. What did they win? They're still existing, yes. That's it. That they have a worse mess on their hand than we could probably conceive. And granted, not all their military capability has been eliminated. Airplanes eliminated. The Navy, mostly all eliminated. And much of their missile stuff, but half of it's, half the missiles still exist, they think. And maybe half the drones still exist. They're just buried, some of them, and that they can unbury them. But to say that they won, I don't know what lens you would look at and say they won anything, particularly with this memorandum. Now you say, well, they'll lie, they'll cheat, it doesn't matter. Where they're not allowed to touch that material, the radioactive material, and that it's got to be, decommissioned on site, there, and we have to be involved, and we're watching it. So I don't know, and I guess it depends on the follow through. If Iran cheats and we have zero follow through, then we've made a mistake, and it would take years to figure out. This same listener says, I think the military deserves credit for the campaign. Pretty sure Trump didn't bomb anything. Well, that's true of any president. Yes, the president just makes the orders. I don't know if you consider that bomb or not. I don't know. I guess the owner of a car dealership says I sold 400 cars, and he may not have sold a single one himself. I don't know. I still think you give him credit for selling the cars. He's his organization. We should just stop funding Israel if they keep derailing Trump's plan for ending the conflict. We need to decouple from the most hated country in the world. Maybe they are the most hated country in the world. I have no idea. They have a right to exist, and they're fighting for it every day. I mean, they're probably one of those countries that have, and heck, it started off with Egypt, and they won that very first war in the 60s, I think it was. And they've been fighting ever since, but many of them now joined the Abraham Accords, or some of them have, and are treating them with respect. And again, Iran, I think Iran's probably the last holdout that just wants to attack and kill them. And of course, Iran runs the Houthis, and they run the other hate groups, Hezbollah. Why are we not bombing other countries engaging in drug trafficking in our country? It isn't just Venezuela. I think we offered to on Mexico. We have a relationship with the country yet that Scheinbaum has asked us not to get involved in that. I don't know that I don't think this listener wants to bomb everything either. I don't think so. He said, U.S. should reduce its presence in NATO. Sure. Should we do the same in Israel? Getting back to Israel. This guy hates Israel. Eliminate the funding to them. We should not pay for Israel's defense. I don't know how much we do pay. I don't know. I know there's some foreign policy, but they're one of the few countries, but it's growing now. The few countries in the area that have a relationship with us, that have a support of us. That Israel's one that has. Although now we've got, relationship better with Qatar, Belarus, and not Belarus. I forget the name of it. But with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, but and those are great relationships, and they have grown. And they've been working with Israel actually, which is good. All right, now let's see, and Sandy. Contrasting President Trump's building in Chicago with Obama's library in Chicago, President Trump's building looks beautiful and Obama looks like a trash can. I heard yesterday Obama's building was built on stolen land. That's from Sandy. Yeah, absolutely right. On her last day in office, Tulsi drops bomb on Anthony Fauci. And I don't know if you heard about that, but Fauci was hiding more things we know. And there's um, documents and stuff on all of that and email. So I'm sure we'll get to that. And I didn't read this one, but I went on Truth Social. This is from DC Drano, and I know DC Drano is just a pen name for the Truth Social, and I think he's on others. He says Arizona's laughingstock elections might actually be transformed into the Florida system, where almost all the votes are counted on election night. The AZ legislature put it on the 26th ballot for voters to decide and make a constitutional amendment. Make it happen. Absolutely make it happen. If it's if it's coming out on the amendment, then we can, that's up to the voters. That we could do that, and I haven't read it yet, but I'll be pushing for that. And I can't believe that Arizona voters. I mean, I think most people want an honest, open election. You look at the country when it says about IDs and all that, you get 85%, and we're a referendum state. We should just run it on the ballot. You can't get the Governor Hobbs to sign anything like that. We could run that on the ballot, so that makes perfect sense. Make it just like Florida. I agree. Florida's got the best system right now in the country, and they went through terrible times with hanging chads. If you remember way back when during Al Gore, hanging chads, and they were calling it Florida. And it took a long time to straighten it out. It took a long time, and we need to get back. We need to implement that. And I know Senator Tim Dunn has gone to Florida and looked at their election system and brought a lot of that information back. And they wrote bills and they passed bills in the House and the Senate to improve ours, not exactly like Florida, but to improve them based on some of Florida's experiences. And everything's vetoed by Governor Hobbs. They don't want anything to do with integrity within the voting system. They don't. So yeah, putting it on the ballot may be the right thing to do. This is from the Babylon Bee. Al Gore explains that while an inconvenient truth did not prove accurate, it did make him incredibly rich. That's the Babylon Bee. That's awesome. Of course, that's a satirical publication. But I'll read you some of it. While commemorating film's 20, has it been 20 years? 20th anniversary, explained that while an inconvenience it made him rich, Gore, who wrote and starred in the Oscar-winning documentary, was happy to sit down for an interview with ABC Ginger Z to discuss the film success and all that. I think the film was a great success, actually. For me, that is. It may not have been true in any way, but I'm sure enjoyed it. After all, I'm now very, very rich. Keep in mind, this is satire. Gore wouldn't really say all that. The Inconvenient Truth was heavily criticized for what many considered extreme interpretations of climate models, which has proven to be right. The climate models that he had would have had us all flooded out by now in low-lying countries and low-lying cities, and the polar bears would be extinct, and we'd be running cruise ships through the North Pole. None of that happened, of course. And those models, they write it up. Extinction of polar bears, melting ice glaciers, sinking of Florida. However, even most conservative climate scientists were unable to deny how much money it made for Gore. And though I believe climate change is a real concern, the vice president film was alarmist nonsense, as it was. Al Gore began fundraising for a second sequel to finish his Inconvenient trilogy because he wanted more money. Wow. It's satire, but closer to reality than what we normally have. I got to look at the listener that I said hates Israel. corrected me. He says he doesn't hate Israel. Don't like their policies, and they're spying on America, not the actions of an ally. Well, unfortunately, I think that most of our allies spy on us, and we probably spy on most of our allies. It's just unfortunate that happens. An article here from the Wall Street Journal about Mandani versus the bodegas. Now, Mandani has campaigned that he's going to put grocery stores in New York that are government owned, and then sell them at cost, or, something. And of course, that's just going to be a big loss for everybody, for the entire city, because they'll lose so much money. That's going to raise taxes if you can't raise taxes. But in October, during his campaign, he received an endorsement from the United Bodegas of America, an advocacy group, for some of the 14,000 neighborhood grocery stores. That's kind of amazing that they endorsed him after he said he was going to put them out of business. Many bodega owners say the mayor has betrayed them by pushing ahead with his plan to create city-owned supermarkets. He said that up front. I mean, you endorsed him anyway. He said the government should be working with us. Well, you endorsed a socialist, and you're a businessman. You should think about that. And that's Food Earth in the Bronx and president of the bodega, and this Francisco. So he is. Said that type of business run by the government, they never succeed. They always fail, and they fail big, and with a lot of money that could have been used for something better. Yeah. Carlos Colaro, owner of a fine food store in Bronx, says, how can one compete against that monster that is weaponizing our own tax dollars? So they're just now waking up. When Mandani's been saying this since the first day, and you all got on board and gave him money. Yeah, and you gave him votes. Right now, the cost is about $30 million to open up a store, and I guess that's way more than what it would be if it was a private business. We had to balance a bunch of things, according to, and this is Ginny Pack, and she's a city councilwoman, just to get this done. And there's 5 grocery stores already within a 2-block radius of that store they're going to put in. They're going to put in a grocery store that's owned by the government, selling at cost, so to say, within walking distance of 5 stores. We really want to work with the bodega owners, according to Ms. Pack, the city councilman. The core basket of goods isn't really some of the stuff that the bodega owners offer. I guess they're saying their product mix is going to be different. We're not going to offer the same things. He says things like bread, meat, chicken, eggs, won't offer such items as lottery tickets and alcohol found in the bodegas. Is that how you're really going to do it? I don't think so. I mean, how much money do you want to lose at the grocery store? I mean, the one that's owned by the country, by the city. Is somebody that started working in a bodega worker at 18. He says, an owner now. He says, I know what it means to be raised in the life, to serve the community, to bring business to the community. Local stores like his have long been a lifeline for neighborhoods and all that. But they're doing it. Let's take a phone call. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, you're on the air.
I'm on the air.
Yes, you are.
Like the radio?
Yes.
Hello.
I take it that's a surprise to you.
Oh, yeah, it is.
All right. Well, you can call me back after 9 o'clock would be fine.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. I don't even know who that is. Yes, my personal cell phone is my on-air call. And let me see. I've never received a call from that number, so I don't know who that is, and we will we'll figure that one out. Let me get back to this. Let me see the Russia-Ukraine war, and Edward has sent me an article on that. That is, and I followed this for the last 4 years. And when it first started, I was watching it every day, all the time, because it was only supposed to take 3 days, and it was going to be over. And I was curious how that was going to look. Of course, it's been 4 years later, and things are not what they thought they were going to be. In fact, I was watching a show this morning that the initial surge that Russia did took over 27% of Ukraine, and Ukraine, I guess, in the first months, pushed back and took a big swath of that back, and they ended up with about taking 18%, just less than 20%. After that's what Russia did, and they've been progressively taking a little bit more ever since then. In fact, since 2022, the end of 2022, they've taken what it amounts to the size of Manhattan back. So they're sitting around 20%, occupying 20% of the Ukrainian country. They started off at 27 and got pushed back in a big way, and then now they've been getting it back, and that makes sense because part of Ukrainians' policies at the time was that they were more worried about casualties than they were about protecting every inch. And so they would back up and lead Russia into ambushes, and then we're taking out equipment, taking out massive amount of people. Estimates of 1.5 million people, either death or disabled of Russia's. I don't know the numbers on Ukraine, and of course they didn't get out of this scot-free, but they were protecting people more than property. So they've given some back, but it's been slow go. It's been inches. It's not been very fast, and I don't remember what the estimates are, but at the current rate, it would take them another 50 years to take Ukraine if they take it at the same pace. And as you know, over the last year or two, Ukraine has started to get very sophisticated with its drones and the ability to get around all the defensive systems of Russia inside Russia. At first, nobody was in Russia. At first, it was only fought on Ukrainian land. And all the allies wanted it all kept on Ukrainian land. We're only to help you with defense. And of course, you're never going to win, ever, if that's your only plan. There's no way to win because everything's done on your property. So they've become very successful at destroying a lot of their ability to manufacture petroleum and manufacture drones, and they go after a lot of airplanes and military type targets and infrastructure that make military equipment. Well, just yesterday, or either yesterday or day before, they did a major drone attack on Moscow that was very visible, and something that Putin has done during this war is to make sure that the Russian people in Moscow and around their capital and all that they don't get, they're not engaged, and they believe that they're winning the war, which some will say they are winning the war, and that there's no problems. Well, it's hard to do when your capital's burning, when Moscow's burning, and right now it is. One of the oil refineries and producers which is right in the, it looks like it's right in the middle of a bunch of housing projects and everything else. I mean, it's hard to see. It's all black smoke. Well, now Russia's mad about it. Now, how do you get mad after 4 years and you say, now you've provoked me and I'm going to attack you? You've been attacking for 4 years. It's like saying, don't make the terrorists mad by being mean to them. It's the largest ever attack on Moscow, and there's a lot of stuff burning now. Down in Crimea, gas is being rationed or not available at all to private business. They've knocked out the bridges. They're not getting supplies. I mean, Russia's got some pains right now that they didn't have. So now Ukrainian forces conducted a large-scale attack against Moscow on Wednesday evening and Thursday. So it was Wednesday and yesterday. And one of it is an oil refinery in the southeastern outskirts of Moscow, which they've already been rationing gas all over the place. And looks like Moscow now Now, Russia's pledged to carry out frequent massive group strikes against Ukraine shortly after Kyiv launched a barrage of drones on Moscow. They've been doing it all along. And I'm sure Ukraine's very aware of that. It's Ukraine that has stepped it up, and actually Russia has reduced it. And this one that went into Moscow was reportedly 200 drones. It's the biggest air raid ever. 16 people been injured, while 4 Moscow airports temporarily grounded flights. Columns of black smoke can be seen blowing around the Moscow refinery, and the facility has been targeted. Of course, it's no coincidence that the president announced some time ago that yet another Kyiv terrorist attack, that he will now conduct massive group strikes on a regular basis against targets whose conditions directly affect the combat readiness of the Ukrainian armed forces. And that's according to Russian foreign minister, it's Sergei. But they've been doing it all along. They've been attacking infrastructure, power stations in Kyiv since the beginning of the war, trying to freeze them out and all that. And I know a lot of the residents now, they all have portable generators, right? Because the power is not consistent. The power can't be counted on. So a lot of them do have portable generators all over the place. Ukrainian forces repeatedly target Russian oil infrastructure. They've been doing this for a few years now, and cutting the Russia ability to make money, because that's a big revenue, just like it is in Iran. They make big money on that. Let me see. In recent days, all of our partners have noted the precision and effectiveness of our mid-range strikes and long-range sanctions. It's time the war ended, and Russia must take the necessary steps in diplomacy. So they're asking for diplomacy. Zelensky is asking for diplomacy. They'd like to cause enough pain to where he does. I don't know how much pain that's going to take. I don't think Vladimir Putin is any different from some of the Iranians. You can kill all the Russians you want. I think he's going to stay by his goal as much as he can until he gets overthrown or something, or whatever. Trump is now, according to this article, turned his attention to Ukraine ahead of the Iranian deal. I'm going to do whatever I can. Trump has been working on Iran since the day he was elected. He thought it would take, a very short order to get this done, and then to talk Putin into some kind of settlement. And of course, early on, he asked Zelensky to give up a lot of the 20% of the property that Russia was occupying. And of course, that went nowhere, and Putin wasn't ready to talk because he felt like he was winning everything. Maybe that's maybe that's changed now, though. I'm looking for this. Let me see. Lithuania New Coalition. No. Let me see. This is something about SpaceX IPO. I don't know how many of you did that, but SpaceX is now public, and they were public in a big way. I know the stocks were shot up to $170 a share right away, and I think they came out at 130 supposedly, face value, and they suspected they'd be selling for much higher, but they shot up to 170. Before SpaceX IPO, investors in China secretly acquired a businessman with ties to Chinese military contracts. Was among the overseas investors who acquired stakes in SpaceX. I don't know who that is. While it's still a private company, an entity linked to the Qatar royal family also took a stake. Well, the only way you could do that is if SpaceX was willing to sell it. The new details come from a private investor list obtained, and I guess there's going to be a lot of things obtained because it's public now, by ProPublica, that sheds light on a particular delicate issue for Elon Musk's rocket company, which people in countries like China bought into the company, and how SpaceX is built on sensitive U.S. government work. They make spy satellites for the Pentagon. There's no ban on Chinese investment in U.S. military contracts. So I don't know what the big deal is. I mean, just investors may know what they're doing, but they don't know details. In a sign of the sensitivity of the concern, SpaceX barred investors from China and Hong Kong from buying shares in the initial public offering last week due to regulatory and compliance risk. The U.S. government allies that China has a strategy of using investments in sensitive industries for espionage to get access to cutting-edge technology. Yeah, China does that a lot, I would think. The new records details at least a dozen investors with addresses of mainland China, Hong Kong, or Russia who acquired stakes in SpaceX years ago through a middleman from the U.S. called Tamales Bay Capital. The investments are relatively small, ranging from $800,000 to $40 million, and were made between 2018 and 2021. And since it was a private company, nobody knew that ahead of time. One investment came from an entity known by David Su, the co-founder of the prominent Beijing venture capital from MPCI. $15 million. I don't know that that's a problem. There's no ban on that. He invested $50 million in SpaceX in 2020. Okay. Also worked with Chinese government last year, the website for Chinese Ministry of Science. I don't know. And Edward sent this to me. And Edward's an investor, and he has been for some time. He's friends with Elon Musk. He owned a big portion of SpaceX, which I'm sure did very well for him when it sold. Well, it doesn't. I mean, it just talks about the investors. It doesn't talk about anything they're going to do about it. So I guess it's interesting, but it's not actionable. Senate advances effort to investigate use of JAG officers as immigration judges. And we've heard talk about that before, that we don't have enough immigration judges. And they'd like to step it up. In fact, because of ICE and everything else, those still have to go to a judicial system. And in an effort is advancing in the Senate to demand a probe on how Judge Advocate General were used by the Justice Department last year to serve immigration judges and special attorneys. So wait a minute. Senate advances efforts to investigate. I guess that's what they've been doing. Senator Warren, of course, Pocahontas, introduced a proposal mandating the U.S. Comptroller General to carry out an investigation into how JAGs were reassigned to civilian jobs. The measure was adopted with bipartisan support by the Senate Armed Service Commander. JAGs are trained to administer impartial legal counsel and administer to try to court-martial under Uniform Code military justice. But in September 25, around 600 military lawyers were authorized to act as immigration judges to help address a national backlog of immigration court cases, which I guess made sense. We'd heard about that. Then in January, JAGs were put to work as special assistant U.S. attorneys in cities across the country at greater numbers than before, and in the cases, no direct connection to the military. And I don't know if that's a problem or not. Apparently, Elizabeth Warren thinks so. Judge advocates, I suppose, look like a resource that the administration could tap into, and that couldn't quit if they were being asked to do things that they didn't want to do. Let me see. Steve Lepper, retired Air Force general and JAG, belongs to a former JAG working group created last year. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, replaced the top lawyers for the military service. The group stated purpose is to communicate the effects of that decision on the role of the military. That's actually one of the reasons why I and my colleagues believe that it's so detrimental to the rule of law in this country to use judge advocates in those roles. They can't say no. I guess they signed on to help. I guess they can't say no. They have to follow the lawful orders that were given to them, and they can't simply walk away from the job if they don't like it for any reason that they've been asked to do. So Warren's proposal does not appear to be the text of in the text of the Senate version of the NDAA, which the Senate Armed Service Committee debated in closed session. Under the proposal, the Government Accountability Office is expected to uncover the criteria under which the JAGs in question were selected, the extent of their training for their civilian role. Oh man, I guess it was successful, or they wouldn't be working on it so hard. They don't like the fact that Trump did it. Pete Hegseth is treating our independent military lawyers like pawns in Donald Trump's cruel immigration agenda. I think Donald Trump's agenda was to get it through the courts, and it's hurting our military readiness and morale. Well, that's a bunch of crap. I don't know how that hurts morale or readiness. These are JAG officers. This independent investigation is an important step to support our military members and hold this administration accountable. Well, I think they ought to keep doing it myself. They should continue to do that. Oh, and here's one I read earlier that I did not print out, but the Pentagon opened to Poland's offer to host permanent U.S. base. And I know I've said it from the beginning when they pull it out of Germany, and many people have, that they ought to put it in Poland. Poland has been very serious militarily. Poland has spent the money. I mean, by far, as far as NATO goes, they spend the highest percentage of GDP. And this says the Defense Department's open to Poland's offer, which I think Poland would be a very strategic place for it. I mean, it's been in Germany since the end of World War II. They've been when NATO first started. Poland's been pushing for a bigger Allied presence on NATO eastern flank after Russia's invasion of their neighboring Ukraine. Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, Russia, I don't think. I mean, Germany's not in any kind of trouble for an invasion of Russia, probably not near as much as Poland. Poland's right there on the eastern flank. I mean, they're right there. Even though they've been spending the money, they've been getting ready for something, and I guess are very capable. Unlike Germany, who has not been, but just the location of Poland makes them more vulnerable. I mean, they border Belarus too, and they're surrounded by the enemy. I had the opportunity to speak today with the Secretary of War. We discussed collective defense and cooperation. That's according to their leaders. The U.S. responded positively to Poland's proposal to establish a permanent U.S. military base in Poland. No decision has been taken yet, and I guess U.S. troops have been in Poland before. I mean, they've hosted them before for certain things. Let's take a call from Gilbert. Good morning, Gilbert.
So it's all over Facebook that you guys going to come back in service, huh?
Correct. It is all over
That's
Facebook. Now, I don't have a date, though, but Derek has been successful in completing the paperwork, and that's how it got out. I mean, no, Derek didn't make any announcement, but the paperwork was complete with the FCC and from the other company, El Dorado, has submitted all that.
Yeah, so that's a good thing.
Absolutely, absolutely, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And Derek and I have talked briefly about where it's going and what we want to do with the station, and that's more community involvement, more people to come into the studios, more interviews, businesses, or religious organizations, high schools. I don't care. Just more fabric of the kind, like we used to do before El Dorado climbed down on it.
In other words, the city of Yuma, the county of Yuma, the state of Arizona is going to be involved on your station.
Yes, we hope so. And we used to have the city on quite regularly in the county. The city's more interesting because the city has more policies that make people mad.
Well,
the county is more of an extension of just state government, but
right. But still, we're seeing things out here that we don't like, but we got a pretty good county supervisor.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're gonna do a lot. We're gonna do a lot more remotes. Also, I'd like to do remotes out in the foothills or anywhere. You guys have a breakfast meeting. I'll just do a remote right from there.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good.
Yeah.
We have a good. Like tomorrow, we have our monthly meeting at 8:00. come by. We have I'm tongue tied right now.
Yeah.
And it's good things going on tomorrow. So come out and join us.
Yeah.
And you know, Russ, it's probably more than a couple of revolutions for your motorcycle to come out here. But you're welcome.
Yeah, that's what I need is a motorcycle. We'll come out there.
You know, we had another accident the other day.
Where?
18-year-old.
Oh no, I did not know.
24th Street and Mary Avenue. Left-hand turn in front of the motorcycle, but it says the motorcycle was speeding.
Okay.
And I was talking the other day. You have an 18-year-old, two 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Now that 18-year-old, the passenger, is trusting this guy on a motorcycle.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot. You know, the passenger trusting the rider.
How many years have you been riding motorcycles?
13. I was 13 years old.
You were since you were 13, so it's been like 80 years.
I don't know how you get 80, but yeah. I was first. It was a 305 Dream Honda.
I don't even know what that is, a 305, but
Honda.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't picture what it looks like. Now,
yeah.
And how many accidents have you had since then?
That I caused?
Well, just that
0.
you were involved in. Okay.
3.
You've had 3. And
3. Yeah.
And were they serious? I mean, serious to put you in a hospital, or were just?
No. My first one, I was a kid.
Okay.
And I was on a cushion. But you know, the second one, I was on Avenue B and 3rd Street. There was a truck in front of me. He made a right-hand turn. The Volkswagen didn't see me because it was a big truck.
Yeah.
So I saw what was happening. I brought my leg straight up as she hit me and knocked my carburetor off my motorcycle.
Okay.
So I was very fortunate on that one. The next one was in 80s, 85, 87, something like 90. A lady was doing a fast walk at 5 in the morning. I was heading to California, and she had headphones on, I guess, but she stepped off the curb, and I was like 25 feet away from her, and I slammed my brakes. What happened? She froze, so I had to release my rear brake.
Yeah.
I had a good control straight until I had to do that. You know what happens to your rear tire when you let go of the brake? So I went sideways, and I hurt my knee, but I didn't know the extension of that until a year later, and I decided to go check it out. 5.5 hour surgery to repair my knee. But
wow.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So, but now those accidents. I mean, I know you're probably one of the more defensive drivers now. You've learned a lot over the years. Would you say you're a safer driver today than when you were younger?
Oh yeah, because I pay more attention, and my dad told me a long time ago, when you ride that motorcycle faster than you can ride, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
When you're no longer afraid of your motorcycle, sell it because you're gonna get killed.
My brother texted me and assured me that I owned a 305 Honda when I lived in Delaware.
Oh wow!
I didn't realize that was a 305 Honda. I remember the bike. I didn't know it was. So I know what it is now.
Yeah. I had it. My neighbor asked me if I wanted to do it. Well, my dad had a motorcycle. I grew up in motorcycles, so let me get that one straight. He had an old panhead and a knucklehead and a shovelhead, which I had a panhead and a shovelhead. But
and you're still riding to this day.
Oh yeah, I ride a trike now.
Yeah.
Car is more comfortable on the trike. So I said, okay, as long as you're comfortable, you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. You're still getting bug in your teeth. You're okay.
I got wind in my hair, what hair I have left, but I got a windshield. And when I can no longer ride a motorcycle, I said I'm getting a convertible to get, air in my head.
There you go. So, you're staying up with it. Well, I appreciate the call, my friend. Take care.
Later.
All right. Bye-bye. As Mr. Gilbert, with that, we need to go. I'll be back Monday. You guys have a great weekend.